I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well.
Well, hello. The guy.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Jordan Uhl with you guys. Big day ahead. We've got lots of Donald Trump news, thinking about running again. For what? Are you kidding me? They're thinking of going to war again, of course, this time with Venezuela. More updates from Lindsey Graham about how they're going to attack. We've got disasters pretty much in every direction. And we've got a big show ahead for you guys. Tonight, by the way, Anna's going to be on CNN at 10 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you're checking her out. She's going to light into some of the issues and guests there, including Trump's potential third term, which we're going to talk about as well right now.
Yep, start with this.
Sir, Steve Bannon said in a recent interview that there could be plans for you to be able to run and potentially win a third term in 2028. Is that something you'd be willing to challenge the court to be?
Well, I haven't really thought about it. I have the best poll numbers I've ever had. I would love to do it. And I have my best numbers ever. It's very terrible. I have my best numbers. If you read it, am I not ruling it out? You'll have to tell me.
This morning, Donald Trump refused to rule out a third term as president, despite it being blatantly unconstitutional. Now, before we get into more of the details, Cenk, what do you make of this? They are continuing to hint at it, and it seems like all signs are pointing to they're going to try it. What do you think?
This is why we have no King's protests. So the right wing is always like, oh, I can't believe you guys are calling him authoritarian. Dude, what's running for a third term about? There is no such thing. It's in the Constitution, it's super clear. We're gonna give you more details here because they have one particular avenue that they thought was kind of cute, but Trump has apparently ruled that one out, but I wouldn't count on him ruling anything out. Does he want to stay in power, Jordan? Despite what the US Constitution says, despite America being a democracy, etc. Of course he wants to stay in power. The most important part of this, Jordan, is the MAGA reaction. Why? Because he's testing the waters here. Are his voters going to back him up and encourage him to do it again, or are they going to say no? This is how he does it. They use the excuse of trolling. We'll explain all of it now.
Yeah, now his statements came a few days after Steve Bannon claimed yet again that there is a plan to keep Trump in office for another term. He said Trump is going to be president in 2028 and people ought to just get accommodated with that. Now, the Constitution is incredibly clear on this issue. The 22nd Amendment reads, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. But some of Trump's supporters have floated a plan that they argue would circumvent the US Constitution. It would include him running for vice president in 2028 as JD Vance's running mate, and then having Vance resign. But today, Trump said he was ruling out that particular scheme. Take a look.
One theory on how you might try to serve a third term is that you could run as the vice president.
Yeah, I'd be allowed to do that.
Is it the White House or the White House counsel to your legal position?
No, you'd be allowed to do that, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it. I think it's too cute. Yeah, I would rule that out because it's too cute. I think the people wouldn't like that. It's too cute. It's not. It wouldn't be right.
And he also revealed who he thinks would make a good Republican ticket if he were to step aside. Take a look.
We have some very good people, as you know.
You said for 2028, they're very good people.
Well, we have great people. Well, I don't have to get into that, but we have one of them standing right here. We have JD, obviously. The vice president is great. I think Marco's great. I think, I'm not sure if anybody would run against us. I think if they ever formed a group, it would be unstoppable. I really do. I believe that. I would love to do it.
Now, his refusal to rule himself out of the race in 2028 shouldn't be surprising. In March, NBC's Kristen Welker told Trump in an interview that she'd heard him joke about serving a third term multiple times. And in response, Trump said, "No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking." So it seems perfectly clear, Cenk, and I think your point is a good one. This is why we have events and mass mobilizations like the No Kings protest. The right will say, well, we don't have a king. But they're saying on the right now, they want one, and they want it to be Trump. What do you think?
Yeah, so that's a little bit more in question. So we'll get into that in a second. But first, I want to go to some of our members here because I think they make a lot of good points, and we'd like to do the show together with you guys. Hit the join button if you can to become one of those members. Ian Gulbis says, what's even funnier, the Conservative Party pushed for the two-term limit amendment in response to FDR. Absolutely right. But for conservative leaders, their goal is clear, which is power. The Constitution is optional. Democracy is optional. Power is what's important. Again, we'll get to the voters in a second. Nerd Ferguson said Trump would be 86 or 87 at the end of a third term. At that point, he could stay in politics. He'd be the ideal age to fit in with our Senate. Good point. Okay, I was going to say, don't give him any ideas. But by the way, if you're on the right, Trump could run for the Senate, the House. He could ask to be appointed to the Supreme Court. He could do all those things. There's nothing preventing him from doing that. You can't be pro-Constitution and say, who cares about the Constitution? We just want to run again and again and again. So that's just a fact. If that fact makes you uncomfortable, that's fine, but you got to resolve it somehow. You have to either say, well, of course I'm not for a third term, that's ridiculous. Or of course I'm not for the Constitution, I hate the Constitution. Okay, or you hate that provision in the Constitution, that's fair. Michael Prestano says, Trump never cared about the Constitution. He just wants to have as much power as possible for as long as possible. It's that simple, you can boil 99% of his decisions down to that fact. When it comes to Trump, yes, I agree with that completely. I think that he thinks, why wouldn't I want more money and power and fame? Where's the question? They're like, well, the question is democracy, the Constitution, America, Western civilization. To him, those are just inconveniences. I don't think he cares about those as ideas or philosophies. And if you do, you're on the right and you care about those things, you're projecting your beliefs onto him. He's never shown that he cares about those things. And Catch a Butterfly on Twitch says, if Cheeto gets to run third term, so does Obama. In fact, that's partly what they're worried about. That's why when Steve Bannon has been asked about it, because he keeps bringing it back up, he said, oh, well, we have an idea for that. They're gonna try to move this whatever ideas they have, which is nonsense. They don't have any ideas. Their idea is, why don't we go for fascism, okay? Or do this stupid cutesy trick, which, I mean, like, I can't give Trump any credit on this. He's the one going, oh, maybe I run for a third term. And I'm not joking, right? So, all right, he ruled out the idea that's too cute by half on the running as vice president and having the vice president step down. But that was the only idea I've seen that they've actually put out there, which is not that clever. But when Bannon's asked about it, he's like, well, no, we can design it in a way where only Trump can run, but Obama can't. Tell me that you're afraid of Barack Obama without telling me you're afraid of Barack Obama. Tell me that you're not actually in favor of democracy without telling me you're not actually in favor of democracy. Because if you want to say third term, look, I'm not a big Barack Obama fan. I don't necessarily wouldn't necessarily want him to run again, okay? But apparently Bannon, Trump, and all the other leaders of the Republican movement are like, oh no, not Obama, not Obama. We have to double cheat. We have to, our guy can run, but your guy can't run because we think your guy would kick our guy's ass and he's way more popular. So we're gonna maneuver everything so that he can't run, but we can. All right, then you're admitting that you want to cheat, you want to get rid of the Constitution, you don't want to play by the rules, you hate our democracy. Just admit it, just say it. Why doesn't Steve Bannon just say it? Okay, you hate our democracy. Everybody knows that, Steve. I don't know why you can continue to hide it. You've said it a billion times in other ways. Oh, wouldn't it be great if these people weren't allowed to do that and those people weren't allowed to do this and only me and my fellow Republican leaders and our fake walls and all the other scams we run are the ones who should be the only ones who have a voice. Yeah, I get it, man, I get it. Some in right-wing leadership love that kind of talk, power for power's sake. That's not what this country was built upon. Okay, so when it comes to the voters, Jordan, look, do I see the cat turds of the world like, yay, fascism is awesome. By the way, they don't call us fascists. Oh, they call me fascist. Let's be fascist. Make up your mind. Which turd of whichever animal you are, make up your mind. Do you want to be fascist or do you believe in America? Oh no, I believe in America, man. Oh, you want Trump, man. Trump looks like me. People who look like me. That's what the America I believe. That's not America, brother. That's not America. That's like old school Germany or something. So America's, we're all equal. We believe in justice for everyone and equal rights, not an equal opportunity, not equality of results. But you don't want any of that. So just be honest about it. In terms of the rest of them, Jordan, I don't think so. Look, I think that this one, the percentages I'm not sure about, or is there a big chunk that says, yeah, Trump, no matter what, screw the Constitution? There probably is a decent chunk of right-wingers who think that. Are there a bunch of people who voted for Trump who'd go, third term, what is he gonna be, 98? And I read the Constitution, I took civics in 8th grade. No, he's just trolling, he's messing with you guys. And they, like I think half of them at least, genuinely believe that no matter how many times Steve Bannon and Donald Trump say, we're not joking. We hate the Constitution, we want the power. That's the only thing we care about. No matter how many times they say, they go, they're just trolling, they're just kidding. And I think that those guys genuinely believe they're trolling because they think, really, you hate America that much? This one's crystal clear. Do you hate our Constitution that much? And on this one, which makes sense? Nah, so they can't quite believe that their leadership actually is that un-American.
Yeah, I am curious to see how this plays out. Now, granted, there's a lot of time between now and the 2028 election. I do think that they will at least try it. I don't know how it'll go in the primaries, but with so many different aspects of Trump's administration, his behavior, his violation of our norms or our laws, it all relies on whether or not there's a contingent large enough in the Republican Party to push back against it. And time again, they have shown they're unwilling to do so. Now, the element here is, well, that's another term that other presidential hopefuls are removed from or eliminated from contention. So there's a little bit of a self-serving interest. I'm sure they're going to say it now when they're far away from this election cycle. But I do think some of them are not going to want him to run again because they're getting old too. They want a shot. Everyone's in it for themselves. While they might publicly support Trump, there's a lot of self-serving in our politics. So that's one component. I'd be curious to see how this stacked right-wing Supreme Court would rule on an inevitable challenge to his candidacy. But also, it's very lofty to be talking about this now, knowing how the presidency ages everybody, and knowing that Trump is in poor health. We just heard today from Axios that Trump had a previously unannounced MRI at Walter Reed within the past couple months, on top of another surprise visit to Walter Reed. So he is not doing well. There's been a lot of speculation over the past several months about potentially serious health conditions affecting him. We saw those bruises on his hand. You saw the swelling of his ankles. None of this points to somebody who is in a good health state. And I think, like I'm saying, it's lofty to think that he might be around for another 7 years if you include the 4 years of the potential illegal, unconstitutional third term.
Yeah, look, I just can't stand this brazen attack on the Constitution. Are there parts of the Constitution you want to amend? Of course, especially the way the Supreme Court has ruled, right? The Supreme Court has ruled that First Amendment means you're allowed to bribe any politician you like. And we'll call it a campaign contribution or an independent expenditure, or we'll call it a gratuity after the fact, right? So do I want to amend the Constitution to fix that part? Yes. Have some parts of the Constitution been misinterpreted? Yes. And that happens with the Supreme Court deciding cases all the time on what different words mean, what different phrases mean, etc. But this one has no lack of clarity at all. No one outside of Steve Bannon and Donald Trump have ever questioned this amendment. It's crystal clear. And by the way, the American people love it. There's no big movement. Oh my God, I wish that people could, I mean, Obama was, whether you liked him or not, was very popular. There was no movement for a third term because people believe this is a core American principle. It's in our Constitution for good reason. What is Trump doing? He does the testing of the waters. And then if it doesn't work and people don't like it, and then he goes, oh, I was just trolling. He doesn't even say it. Usually his handlers will say it. Oh, he was just trolling in hindsight. If it does work, then he goes, oh yeah, I meant it. Of course I meant it. Come on, right away, let's do it. So how are we gonna tell if it's gonna quote unquote work or if he's gonna retreat on this one? Because he does retreat quite often. I mean, that's why that markets even have a word for it. Taco, right? Trump always chickens out. So I don't think he always chickens out. I think he chickens out some of the time. And sometimes he doesn't, depending on the reaction, the stock market reaction, world markets reaction, and in this case, MAGA's reaction, and independent and other Trump voters. So Jordan, last thing is for you, right? So I think the Tim Dillons of the world and the Theo Vons and the Andrew Schultz, I think they're gone already. I think that if Trump was like, yeah, I should be king, I should run for a third term, an eighth term, they'd be like, shut up, dude. No, hell no. And it would affect a lot of independents that voted for Trump last time, and it'd be a bad idea. Rogan, I think, would say hell no. I'm not as sure as I am with the other three. Do you think that those guys will go, no way, we love Trump, we asked you to vote for Trump, we bow our heads to Trump, screw the Constitution, we want Trump to do this? And that's question number one. Question number two is, do you think that makes a big difference or no?
So I think it depends on what our circumstances are in 2027. I think if some of these more systemic issues are addressed, I don't think they will be. I'm just saying, in a hypothetical scenario, say Trump has like cracked down on like private, it's laughable to think about, but things like private equity buying up homes, or there's some sort of new Trump care health plan, or wages are going up. If we are in some like booming economic period, and people's material needs are maybe even incrementally being met better than they are now, maybe they would find a way to justify it. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think when you are living in a hyper-capitalist society like we are, in late stage capitalism, things are only going to continue to deteriorate. So I think it might be easy for them to be against it. And I don't want to discount the impact. I do think they will help shape some people's opinions, but I think it would be much more than that. I think there is a large, moderate contingent in this country who will recognize this as an authoritarian power grab. But I do worry about a scenario. Look, we have seen the ascension of authoritarians to power in years past and decades past, using a populist economic starting point to hold on to and retain power. And if Trump were to do literally anything for people, literally anything that doesn't just enrich his family or his billionaire buddies, it might be more palatable to people like that who don't really care about the Constitution, or who might find themselves willing to look past it because of their own financial well-being.
Yeah, to your point, within 2 years when the primaries really get going, I think that Trump will be so despised that all this will be moot. And why, guys? And if you're on the right or you voted for Trump, why? The economy, let alone everything else. Yeah, Jordan's right. What has he done for you? He gave you a nickel and a dime, right, on the tax cuts, just like the Democrats do. Oh, he gave you 5% change, 10% change. Meanwhile, he gave 100%, 200% to the richest people in the country, to the corporations, just like Joe Biden gave all the corporate subsidies to the chip manufacturers, et cetera, and bragged that it was gonna help the American people. We said on this show, no, it's not. And it's not gonna help the Democrats because you didn't deliver for them. And I'm saying the same thing about Trump. Because all these politicians, they all talk a good game. They get into power. What do they do for you? Almost nothing. What do they do for themselves and their donor friends? almost everything. So Trump's playing that same establishment playbook, and this time, if I'm right, it catches up with him. So we'll find out, and he'll find out. All right, we got to take a break here, guys. Among the different things that we are going to do when we come back is we're going to have a discussion about Karine Jean-Pierre. She says, no, she didn't speak out about the Palestinians' plight, but she's a queer black woman, so it's okay. All right, that when we return.
Do you view Vice President J.D. Vance as your successor?
No.
Let's go to member comments first at tyt.com. Ben Jamin says, oh my gosh, is the Halo statue gone from behind Jordan? Such a shame. Hey, so that I can't speak to. Could ask Jordan about it in a sec. Yeah, is it gone? Oh,
right
okay.
here.
All right, okay. Whew. Okay, disaster averted. Okay, Helen 007 says, the ones that say, oh, he's just trolling, will go and vote for him, so who cares what they say? It's about what they do. The only reason why it matters, Helen, is because Trump, like, there's a politician, he puts his finger to the wind. Which way are they going? Are they good with a king? Are they good with a king? Oh, they're not good with a king. So that's why what his base says, his voters say, is relevant in this case. Galfer 70, so Galfer writes in, actually, Cenk, it sounds exactly like what this country was built on. Only white landowners could vote in 1790, and it took almost 150 years for that to change, and women got the right to vote. Yes, but they did get the right to vote. And right now, our Constitution, our Supreme Court rulings, and our basic governing and political philosophy in this country is equality and justice and believing in the Constitution. And if they don't do that, my guess is they're going to run into a buzzsaw. Well, let's hope we don't find out, but we probably will. Nerd Ferguson says Trump isn't building a ballroom so he can enjoy it for like 2 years and leave. That's a lifetime remodel. Yeah, I mean, he just loves doing stuff like that. I guarantee he wants to call it the Trump ballroom. Guaranteed. So like, there's a lot of reasons why he's doing that. Itchy Brother Dragon on Twitch says they're currently on a 10-stream streak. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I think I like it. Keep watching, brother. BKL070 says, don't want 2-term limits removed, but I would love to see Trump run again. More embarrassing than 2020. I don't want it. I don't, like, you trust Democrats to beat Trump? I mean, I hope to God we're all gonna work together to find a great candidate and win the Democratic primary and win the general election. But if we don't, and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, from the infirmary or the asylum or wherever, anoint our new candidate. No, they'll lose to Trump a 3rd time and an 8th time. There's no one they won't lose to. Mechanical Turk Dragon on YouTube says, no matter what Trump does or doesn't do, we need another amendment to close that stupid loophole and say nobody who has served as president twice can be elected even for vice president. They didn't think it was a loophole until the Steve Bannons of the world came along, but I hear you. Chad on Super Chat says the Constitution already ruled out a 3rd term. Yeah, I know, but either they didn't read the Constitution or they hate the Constitution, one or the other. Constantine Kaviris says, and they're not trying to amend it in the way that the Constitution suggests. I've heard no talk of that. They know they have no chance of amending it. So they do not want to do it in a legal or constitutional way. Constantine Kavir says, I wonder if Trump will argue that since he lost the popular vote in 2016, that term doesn't count. Luckily, Trump is incapable of admitting he lost the popular vote. But if you take Trump's logic, he already won 3 times. So you certainly can't run. But of course, he doesn't believe that either. He's a liar, that's why. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT. Guys, I got to tell you about a couple programming notes tonight. We have another episode of The Revolution. I'm going to show you why we need the revolution. Some shocking facts. That'll be at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. Anna Kasparian is going to be on CNN talking about Trump's third term, the Democratic Party, which direction it should go. Should be a doozy. That's 10 o'clock tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern on CNN, Abby Phillips show. And then I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Chapter. So a lot of you guys probably know Medicare annual enrollment is now through December 7th. So this is the time when you got to analyze your plans. A lot of the plans change, so be careful. Your plan might have already changed. You might not have the same doctors, the same payments, the same options. So if you want to look for different options or make sure that your plan is the right one, either way, call 707-TYT-HELP. 707-TYT-HELP, because Chapter takes about 20 minutes. It's free, it's easy, and on average, they save people $1,100. We did our homework on this. This is the best plan out there. They're the ones that go through all of the different Medicare plans, make sure that you have the right one. They have the right incentives. In fact, I'm going to talk to their CEO later tonight. That's at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, so check out that interview with Cobi. But in the meanwhile, most importantly, make sure you're on the right plan. 707-TYT-HELP. All right, Jordan, what's next?
Take a look at this.
Senator Gallego on another network accused President Trump and our military of committing murder by attacking these drug boats. To our men and women in uniform, you're not murdering anybody. You're making America safer by going after a narco-terrorist. You're following lawful orders.
In a wild interview on Face the Nation, Senator Lindsey Graham stated that when the Trump administration murders people on boats in the Caribbean, it doesn't actually count as murder. Graham also stated that he wants the United States military to take land actions in Venezuela, and more on that later. But Cenk, what do you make of this claim that what the Trump administration is doing in the Caribbean, bombing these boats, killing people on these boats, isn't murder because they're narco-terrorists?
Yeah, first of all, even if they were narco-terrorists, you're still murdering them. So you could play around with words all you like, but that's what it is. Now, words that matter is extrajudicial killing. And is that what this is? No question about it. Why? Because did they ask a court? They didn't ask a court. Did they go through due process? They didn't go through due process. Did they present any evidence that these people are guilty? No, they didn't. In fact, the Colombian president says that at least one of the boats was a fisherman's boat, and they murdered a bunch of fishermen. But whether they murdered fishermen or people they're claiming without proving are narco-terrorists, it's murder either way. It's an extrajudicial killing either way. And it is wildly illegal, let alone the war that it might start, which we're going to talk about.
And now we have more clips from that interview to show you. But first, let's be clear about who stands to gain from a regime change operation in Venezuela. Maria Corina Machado, who just won the Nobel Peace Prize, is a key figure in the Venezuelan political opposition to President Nicolas Maduro. Machado has touted an economic plan to American and other investors, saying that a democratic Venezuela under her movement's control has the potential to generate 1.7 trillion in wealth in 15 years. Now, in June, she told American corporate representatives, our message to the oil companies is, we want you here, certainly, we want you here, not producing crumbs of a couple 100,000 barrels a day. We want you here producing millions of barrels a day. As for Senator Lindsey Graham, his career donations from the defense industry, individuals, 569,000, PACs, 593,000. So of course there is money behind his position, despite seemingly he's a war hawk in and of himself. According to Open Secrets, he's taken over $1.1 million from individuals and PACs associated with the defense industry over the course of his career. So keep all of that in mind as we show you this clip of Lindsey Graham cheering for land strikes in Venezuela.
You don't need an aircraft carrier to hit drug boats. Are land strikes planned?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. I think President Trump's made a decision that Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, is an indicted drug trafficker, that it's time for him to go, that Venezuela and Colombia have been safe havens for narco-terrorists for too long. And President Trump told me yesterday that he plans to brief members of Congress when he gets back from Asia about future potential military operations against Venezuela and Colombia. So there will be a congressional briefing about a potential expanding from the sea to the land. I support that idea, but I think he has all the authority he needs.
Now, Margaret Brennan also asked Graham if American troops would be deployed as part of this operation, and here is his response.
You said time for Maduro to go.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like regime change.
It is.
Are you talking about troops on the ground?
I'll let the president speak to that. I'm talking about a briefing that would expand military operations potentially from the sea to the land. It is time for Maduro to go.
Finally, Brennan called Graham out on the legality of the Trump administration's strikes on those boats. Let's see how he handled that.
I know you personally used to serve as a judge advocate in the Air Force. We looked at the JAG manual. Preventative self-defense employed to counter non-imminent threats is illegal under international law. So if we are not at war and these suspected criminals pose no threat of imminent violence, isn't this potentially a war crime to be killing the people on these boats and then to be taking out a leader?
No, not at all. I don't know what manual you're referring to, but I know what President Bush 41 did. He took down Ortega, the leader of Panama, because he was involved in drug trafficking, threatening our country. Venezuela is now partnering with Hezbollah. Hezbollah is running out of money because Iran is weak.
That's not new.
Partnering with drug cartels in Venezuela. No, it should have stopped. Here's what's new. You got a commander-in-chief that's not going to put up with this crap.
Cenk, what do you make of this?
All right, so first of all, the idea that Venezuela and Hezbollah are working together is just a load of crap. Jonathan Larson, our former managing editor here, broke it down brilliantly. It's these two yahoos. One of them is an Israeli citizen that's trying to get out like criminals from Venezuela and get their cash out, etc. They're the ones that are making up all this nonsense about how, Venezuela, we have to kill them all. We have to kill them. We have to go to war. Hezbollah, Iran, they're with the dangerous Muslims. I mean, Jesus, how do they bring Hezbollah into everything, right? So just totally made up garbage from Lindsey Graham. Check out Jonathan Larson's Substack. You'll see the article I'm talking about. Okay, more nonsense. It's an imminent threat. The boats are going to, the first set of boats that they bombed were going to Trinidad. How's a little speedboat going to get from Venezuela to America without running out of gas? I mean, their lies aren't even close to like being true. And they just don't even care at all. There's like a guy in a dinghy pulling like a thing, I'm exaggerating, but they bombed the living crap out of him. They're like, he was about to come to America and he was gonna bring enough drugs, Trump said, on one of those tiny little boats. This was not exaggeration. He literally said it would have killed 25,000 Americans. That little tiny boat, 25,000 Americans. How are they gonna fit a world of drugs? Come on, come on. Okay, so if you go to land, as Lindsey Graham is saying, the reason why he paused with that answer, so does that mean ground troops? He's like, yes, that's for the president, that's for the president. Of course he wants ground troops, of course he does. How are you gonna do a land war without ground troops? So, nonsense, they're trying to, but even if you're right wing, you hate Lindsey Graham, right? Lindsey Graham is top neocon in the Senate. So now that John McCain and Joe Lieberman are gone, he's the one amigo holding down the fort. War with everyone. He says Hezbollah for everyone. Everyone's Hezbollah. Okay, yeah. We've heard this a billion times. What a giant liar. So MAGA, you're gonna go back to the giant lying neocon establishment jerks who got us into every war that you hated? He's telling you right there, we're going on land. We're going to invade Venezuela. Is that what you voted for? I thought you voted for anti-war. You voted to invade Venezuela for oil companies? Now, back to Lindsey Graham. We gave you over $1 million he's taking from defense contracts. At a bare minimum, that's stuff that's public. A lot of times super PACs funnel money to these guys that isn't necessarily public. In fact, we had a spectacular case of it that we showed you a couple of weeks ago where Larry Ellison, we found out through his emails that were leaked, had given Marco Rubio $5 million to kiss Israel's ass. Nobody even knew about it because it was done through a super PAC. And then there's dark money. All of that is, Lindsey Graham has been loaded up with every conceivable legalized bribe there is. And that's before we get to the oil companies who are also bribing Lindsey Graham and almost all the corporate Republicans. And the corporate Democrats also take money from these figures, but at least to be fair to them, they're not driving for a rando, insane war in Venezuela. So look, more great comments by our viewers and our members. On YouTube, the Linux Yes is a member, wrote in questions, what does it take Americans who buy these drugs? What does that make the Americans who buy these drugs and provide a market for the so-called narco-terrorists? But first of all, that's a great point. I love doing this show with our paying members. Hit the join button below, become part of the show if you're on YouTube. If not, tyt.com/join. But let's talk about what he's saying. So forget the guys buying the drugs. There's tons of drug dealers here in America. And they're the ones directly selling to the guy, and then the guy dies if he has a fentanyl overdose, et cetera, et cetera. So is that guy now a narco-terrorist? And by these precedents that they're setting, do we not have to have a trial for them? Do we not even have to arrest them? Can cops just go up to them and shoot them in the head and kill them dead in the street and go, that's a narco-terrorist? Wait, that was an American citizen. We didn't even do a trial. We don't even know how he got there. Shut up, who cares? Boom, 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 let's just kill everybody. They're all narco-terrorists. Well, how do we know they're narco-terrorists? I just said it. No, that's not how America works. The president just declaring someone an enemy of the state and murdering them is not how America works. It's also not how the world works. It is wildly illegal under international law. More importantly, it's wildly illegal under US law. That's why she asked that question to Lindsey Graham, and Lindsey Graham knows that, but he's like, yeah, but so what? Are my donors going to get paid? Yeah, they're going to make billions, maybe even trillions if you start a war this large. Who's going to pay them? Well, the US taxpayers are going to funnel all of your money over to the my donor class so that your anti-war candidate can start another giant disastrous war. So, and by the way, Jordan, we keep talking about Venezuela. Lindsey Graham in that same interview also threatened Colombia and said we might be starting a land war there too. For Colombia was our top ally in Central America and in Latin America and in South America. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to invade them too. How many countries are we going to invade with the anti-war president?
Yeah, that's what I find so rich about all of this. I mean, the Trump administration, the Trump family, their whole team pointed to how he was the no new wars president in his first term. Now, obviously, we know that's bogus when you were just continuing forever wars around the world and inching closer to a potential new Cold War, God forbid, a hot war with places like China. But what's this? You're just bombing fishing boats. You're killing random people and saying we're gonna do a land invasion. They've already threatened Mexico. Now you're saying Venezuela and Colombia. But I think what's really dangerous here is this rhetorical sleight of hand the administration and top Republican allies are using to justify these strikes. Now, of course, we know, and thankfully Margaret Brennan pointed out this is illegal, but what they're trying to do here is use the designated terrorist organization label and this threat that, oh my God, if they were to come here with the drugs, they're gonna kill us, they're gonna harm us. It's all in self-defense, and that in their eyes allows Trump to act unilaterally without approval from Congress, without the traditional methods that presidents typically ignore. They're saying it's an even more streamlined process of power consolidation. Nick Turse at The Intercept has done some tremendous reporting on this front, talked to experts, legal experts, people in the government who warned what this looks like if this continues unchecked, which it seems it will, but also at the same time, this same exact labeling being used to describe domestic groups, organizations, or people. And it's, again, God forbid this happen. But it's not hard to imagine what the consequences might be if they continue to use the same labeling, the same fear-mongering over the threat, and the same self-defense justification.
Yeah, my last two comments go to the members. One is from Twitch. Shay70 wrote in, they had 2 survivors from the boat strikes and they let them go because of lack of evidence and they don't want the reality to undermine their narrative. Nice job, Shay70. That's right. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, we captured 2 of the people from the boats. Oh, crazy narco terrorists, they have to be murdered right away. We let them go. Why do we let them go? Because we had no evidence on them. And if we try to try them, which is what the next step should be, you would all realize we've never had evidence on any of these guys. We're murdering nearly random people in international waters. And it's not my actions or words that prove it, it's the administration's actions. If they were such dastardly narco terrorists that they were about to kill 25,000 people in America with the drugs they were bringing in, and you murdered the other people on the boat, why aren't you gonna try them? I mean, shouldn't you bring them to justice? Oh, no, let them go right away, let them go. Please disappear, please don't let anybody find out you're innocent. Come on, man. And then lastly, TYT.com member Rob3 Chatsworth said, I wonder what a ground war in Venezuela would do to the flow of immigrants to the US. So that's another terrific point, man. I love smartest audience in the world. So if you're a right winger, you voted for Trump, or you're an independent, you voted for Trump. You voted for him, why? You said anti-war was one of your top positions, definitely top 3, maybe number 1. Maybe the economy is number 1, immigration is number 2, but anti-war was definitely top 3. Oh right, the other one was immigration. And if you do a land war in Venezuela, let alone Venezuela and Colombia, do you have any idea how many immigrants will pour into this country, legal or otherwise? And that's what you think you voted for? No, the neocons are back. The establishment's back, the warmongers are back. And so no matter who you vote for, Democrat or Republican, you get Lindsey Graham and you get Benjamin Netanyahu. Those are the 2 constants, the 2 vile creatures that we are constantly having to deal with no matter who you elect. All right, we got to take a break here. When we come back, the mess inside the Democratic Party. All right, let's start with Super Chat again. Grizz, my homie from the streets, writes in, to me it seems obvious Trump will use a new war in Venezuela and the immigration crisis as a reason to postpone elections for security, of course. Look, man, there's a couple of comments you guys wrote in that scare me a little bit in terms of, it's plausible. What you're saying is plausible. And so, yeah, he could try that. But I'll tell you what, though, I just keep saying it. I think it's true. I think so far it's proven to be true. We'll see, how it keeps going. But I think he's going to get caught. I think that the Dillons and the Rogans and all those guys, if he starts a war with Venezuela, if they start cheering for it, I would be shocked. And maybe I'm being naive. Maybe Rogan will put bells on and bring out pom-poms and be like, I meant war. I love war. Oh, but I can't get enough of war. And illegal immigrants coming in because of the war that we started right next to us in our, kind of in our continent, not exactly, but in the Americas. Really? And all of them are going to be like, yeah, and Tucker Carlson and all of them are going to be like, I love war. Thank God we started another war. I don't think so. And I think that, but maybe it doesn't matter at all. And so maybe they don't mind being at 12% popularity and driving everyone on. Just go, so what? I'm going to run for a 3rd term, and I don't care that only 12% of the country likes me anymore. I don't care. I'm just going to stay in power. Then we'll know. But then the American people will rise up. So I'm still in the optimistic camp, even though they are proposing terrible things. 00083 says, unfortunately, Venezuela is shaping up to be another United Fruit Company situation, AKA Banana Republic. A lot of innocent people are gonna get hurt. And remember, guys, why are they getting hurt? Why did we do a coup for a banana company, which is literal, and now Venezuela? For oil companies, for defense contractors, always for corporations that give money to our corrupt politicians, never for the American people. There's no way that war in Venezuela helps us. There's 0% chance, but it helps the donor class. Army Vets for Democracy says on YouTube, I love Colombia. Colombians love America too, and many love Trump. That's what's funny. He's such a loser. Yeah, okay. I mean, they love Trump until he's threatening war against them, so we'll be curious to see what happens next. But I hear you on all of that. That is true. Bach says, yeah, because we have a great track record of regime changes, right? Yeah, I know. Jerkeen says, question is, why does South Carolina continuously send Graham back? Because Graham raises millions of dollars from those donors, and then he runs these ads, and the mainstream media run nothing but positive coverage of him. And the people of South Carolina never find an alternative because that alternative doesn't have enough money to get his message out. So all they ever hear from is that Lindsey Graham, and he's painted as an angel instead of the demon that he is. Boxy Brown 6900 says Lindsey Graham never saw a war he didn't like. That's of course obviously true, but mainstream media doesn't exactly tell you that if you're voting in South Carolina. Senex 1965 says glad to see Anna getting on the mainstream. Hopefully it'll bring more people here to listen to progressive ideas. Yes. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys, more news.
Take a look at this.
We have to go back and take a look at the tens of millions of people who have immigrated, quote unquote, legally over the past 30 years. The Ilhan Omars, the Mehdi Hassans, the Mamdanis of the world, who clearly came here with an intent to destroy the country, not to swear allegiance to it. And if we can find immigration fraud, something we know is widespread, then we need to denaturalize and deport these people.
That's Republican Congressman Randy Fine, a notorious bigot and loyalist of Israel, calling for the deportation of New York mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. And according to new reporting, he and his colleagues are taking actual steps to strip Mamdani of his citizenship. And before we get to that and their plan, Cenk, what is your initial take here?
I think Randy Fine is loyal to Israel above America. And I think Randy Fine is a terrorist sympathizer. I think Randy Fine should definitely be kicked out of Congress. And we've got a question up on TYT.com about whether he should be kicked out of Congress. And I think that there's an argument to be made that traitors like him should be kicked out of the country. So I look forward to making that case after you hear the racist, bigoted garbage that Randy Fine and Ogles are gonna tell you.
Yeah, now for context, Mamdani became a US citizen in 2018 after immigrating to the United States as a child from Uganda. Randy Fine, along with his colleagues Andy Ogles, are pushing Trump's Justice Department to investigate Mamdani's path to naturalized citizenship. Rep. Fine last week demanded the feds review every naturalization of the past 30 years, starting with Mamdani. He told the New York Post, I think we need to take a hard look at how these folks become citizens. And if there is any fraud or any violation of the rules, we need to denaturalize and deport. I know that there's a lot of us that are very, very concerned about the enemy within, people who have come to this country to become citizens, to destroy it. Now, here he is on the conservative What's Right show on Friday, arguing that Mamdani is a threat to the nation. Take a look.
Why should every American, whether they live in Florida or they live in Nevada or any state outside of New York City, be concerned with Mr. Mamdani's what seems to be his meteoric political rise and his likely ascent to the mayor's mansion there in New York?
Well, people should be concerned because he is a communist jihadist who seeks the destruction of the United States. And people should be concerned because that will start with our greatest city, New York. They should be concerned because we can see how this movie ends. We can look at what is now the United Islamic Kingdom, an amazing country that had created so much culture and so much beauty that has now fallen to Islam and is no longer the country that it once was. We're only a few years behind. And frankly, there are not many places left where the conquest has not taken place.
Now, what about Representative Andy Ogles? For his part, he issued a call to, quote, deport Mamdani and branded him an anti-Semitic socialist communist who will destroy the great city of New York. On June 26th, he sent a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi pushing for a probe into whether Mamdani should be subject to denaturalization proceedings on grounds he may have procured US citizenship through willful representation or concealment of material support for terrorism. Now, here is the airtight evidence that he gave Newsmax back in June. In 2018, when he was naturalized, he failed to disclose some of the things that he had been doing, one of which was joining the Democratic Socialists of America. That's a communist organization, which quite frankly, at the time, would have disqualified him from becoming a US citizen. Now, you may have noticed that as Ogles himself stated there, the organization is called the Democratic Socialists of America, not the Democratic Communists of America. But Mamdani isn't sitting quietly amid Fine and Ogles' attempts to get him thrown out of the country. Here's how he responded on Saturday. Take a look.
In a moment when Americans across the country are deeply fearful of whether they can afford the basic dignities of life, be it healthcare, be it groceries, be it their rent, the focus of the Republican Party is to try and denaturalize the Muslim guy that won the New York City Democratic primary with the most votes in our city's history. It just speaks to the fact that for the Republican Party, the only agenda they really have on offer is that of cruelty and punishment.
Cenk, what do you make of what they're trying to do here?
Okay, so to what Mamdani said at the end there. So he gets the most amount of votes in the primary in New York. The New Yorkers get to decide who their mayor is. He also gets the most amount of Jewish votes out of any of the candidates. But does that stop Randy Fine from calling him an anti-Semite anyway, or Andy Ogles? No, of course not, because they don't care about what's true. All they care about is protecting Israel, especially Randy Fine. Randy Fine is a monster. He's not just a terrorist sympathizer. He's trying to get America to become terrorists. He betrays our founding principles. He betrays every American principle. He's loathsome in every way. Okay, so let me prove it to you guys. So first off, he tweeted this about Gaza: release the hostages. Until then, starve away. So collective punishment, starve all of the civilians and the children and the grandmothers in Gaza. Then of course he adds, this is all a lie. Anyway, it amazes me that media continues to regurgitate Muslim terror propaganda. Yeah, mainstream media, they hate Israel. They love Muslim terrorism. That's why they're always pro-Muslim terrorism in mainstream media. Do you understand what kind of a lunatic Randy Fine is? How he's so detached from reality. He's like, this mainstream media is not pro-Israel enough. They love Muslim terrorists. So and as you saw there, he said that Mamdani is not only communist, we'll come back to that, he's a jihadist, which is a very heavy charge. Somebody's a terrorist looking to kill people here in America. He's running for New York mayor. He calls him a jihadi. He says his ultimate goal is the destruction of the United States. Wait, when you have pro-Israel radicals like Randy Fine, every accusation is a confession. So that makes me wonder, whoa, I thought Israel was just trying to rob us and get us to pay for all their genocides and all their war crimes and all their land acquisition. Are they trying to destroy us too? Because I don't think that's true. But Randy Fine always accuses, and other pro-Israel radicals always accuse others of what they themselves are actually doing. So here's another quote from Randy Fine. He said, we nuked the Japanese twice in order to get unconditional surrender. That needs to be the same here. So he's saying, let's set off a nuclear bomb in Gaza and murder as many civilians as we can. Well, what is that? That's a terrorist. Randy Fine is advocating for America to become a terrorist country and to kill civilians en masse, and not even for our benefit, but for the benefit of the country that he actually serves, which is Israel. So if you're gonna fly the Israeli flag higher than the American flag, you're gonna say we should murder innocent civilians and become terrorists so that we could serve Israel more loyally, well then you should get the F out of our Congress. And if you love Israel so much and you wanna go nuke and starve Palestinians to show how much you love Israel, why don't you get the F out of our country and go to the country you actually wanna serve? Oh, no, you don't wanna do that, because that would be too honest. Instead, you want to burrow your way into our Congress. Why is AIPAC even giving him money? This guy is a terrorist sympathizer who would do it for the sheer glee of murdering Muslims and Arabs. But nevertheless, they bothered to bribe him $458,000 from AIPAC and other Israeli lobby to Randy Fine. Locals, on the other hand, is a cheap bitch and was bought for $40,000, but that doesn't tell you if he's got super PAC money and dark money flowing to him from radical Israeli supporters. But either way, they apparently don't understand the point of this country. Everybody's allowed to think what they think. We're all free here. I know you don't want us to be free. I know you want to treat us like we're the Palestinians and occupy America. And like Larry Ellison said, we're going to make sure all the citizens behave. Okay, we're gonna monitor all you guys. Okay, and Randy Fine says, you oppose Israel, you're a jihadi. You should be driven from the country. He says, oh, he's not loyal to America. He's got zero evidence on that. Of course, that fat ass doesn't need any evidence. He ate it already, okay? And yeah, I called him fat. That's how fat he is, okay? And then he comes back around and he's like, well, we should ban anyone from criticizing Israel. We should ban anyone from being Muslim. We should ban. No, brother, it's called the First Amendment. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, free to think whatever we want to think, even if your beloved terrorist government of Israel does not approve. Sorry, you want to, might have liked a Muslim. Cry about it, bitch. Oh, he says, it's a united Islamic kingdom. That England and the UK and Great Britain, they've fallen. The Muslims now control it, there's Sharia law. I mean, look, they get some really sad folks here in America. It's a small number, but they exist. There's a percentage on the right who believes that stuff. And they get all worried and, oh my God, the Muslims are gonna take over Tulsa, Oklahoma. We need to panic. Oh, I just wet myself. Oh, the Muslims are gonna take over. Israel runs 90% of Congress and you're worried that the Muslims are gonna take over? We've obliterated several Muslim countries on behalf of Israel, and you're worried the Muslims are gonna take over? Brother, Israel already took over. Look at how cheap they buy bitches like Andy Ogles, let alone Randy Fine. Murder them all for Israel, he says. America's last with Randy Fine. So apparently, forget the other people who support Israel. You should never put like Randy Fine's disgusting pro-terrorist propaganda on anyone else. No one deserves that, okay? I mean, there's pro-Israel radicals and then there's Randy Fine. Okay, but Randy Fine apparently wants to destroy this country on behalf of another country. He doesn't belong anywhere near prison. Go ahead, tell me, do a loyalty trope. I beg you to tell me, do a loyalty trope. Because here they are going, no, Mamdani and every Muslim is actually, actual real loyalty is to the terrorists and the jihadis. They don't care about America at all, right? Okay, that's why is that not dual loyalty? Why is that not a trope? Oh, it's only a trope if you're talking about Israel. Well, isn't that super convenient? You could say one of our members wrote in like, wait, I don't get it here. Let me read it. Michael Prestano, member on TYT.com, said, I just never understand why it's socially acceptable in the year 2025 to be so openly and blatantly racist against Muslims. This is so strange. If Mamdani was any other race, these comments would be cancel worthy, of course. But mainstream media in America are a bunch of racist bigots who despise Muslims, who work for Israel, who are like, oh, you're gonna say you wanna murder millions of Muslims? Perfectly fine. No one has ever even debated censuring Randy Fine. They censured Ilhan Omar over saying that for lobbyists, it's all about the Benjamins. The most accurate statement ever made. They were like, Trump, 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 right? This other guy's like, oh, dual loyalty, he's a terrorist, all Muslims are guilty. And they're like, oh, I don't see it, no problem. Bravo, Randy Fine, bravo, bravo, Randy Fine. And what's the censure? Where's the congressional hearings? Nothing, because the mainstream media has poisoned American minds against Muslims on behalf of Israel my entire life. Oh, Muslims are savages, terrorists, jihadis. Muslims, evil, evil, evil. We have to kill them on behalf of Israel. We have to kill them on behalf of Israel. No, we don't. The press is lying to you. But these sold out politicians are lying to you. They're trying to make America last and make Israel first. That's what all of this is about. Because Mamdani wouldn't bow his head to Israel. He wouldn't say that he was gonna go kiss the wall and he was gonna go and grovel to the Israelis. They asked him like 18 times in a debate, why won't you grovel to Israel? He's like, I'm running for New York, I want lower housing prices. Everybody in New York wants lower housing prices. They're like, shut up and serve Israel. All right, you racist, I see you. We all see you. All these pro-Israel radicals, not just, Randy Fine's the worst of them, but there's so many pro-Israel radicals in this country who are so deeply racist against Muslims. And you can't be racist against a religion. You have to call me a bigot. Fine, you're a bigot. Tons of these bigots running around betraying us for the country that they love, which is Israel. Go ahead, Jordan.
Well, we've got one more story, so start with this.
Now that you are speaking for yourself, Karine, do you have any regrets at all for anything that you said while you were speaking on behalf of this administration?
Look.
It's a simple yes or no. You don't even know.
No, because you're asking for a yes or no question. I want to put some context to it too. I woke up every day. I woke up every day very proud to be the White House press secretary. I woke up every day as a Black woman who is queer, who no one had ever seen someone like me at that podium standing behind that lectern. It was an honor and a privilege to have that job.
Former White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre's book launch landed with a thud. Jean-Pierre's book, Independent, a look inside a broken White House outside the party lines, released on Tuesday, October 21st, to less than stellar reviews. Now, we'll get to what people are saying in a second, but her White House pivot, her post-White House pivot, has been to leave the Democratic Party and establish herself as an independent, which is an interesting personal branding exercise for someone who spent the last few years defending everything the president did. More confusingly, her publicity tour for this book on her independence doesn't seem to involve any direct criticism of Joe Biden, namely Joe Biden's stance on Gaza. Take a look.
I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about foreign policy. You didn't mention Afghanistan, you haven't mentioned Gaza, and you certainly didn't mention Gaza much in your book. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. You stood at the White House podium speaking on behalf of the administration. You defended US policy in Gaza at a time where there were mass civilian casualties, journalists being killed, whole families being wiped out, hospitals being bombed. And the international community was calling it what it was at the time, saying it was a violation, it was war crimes, and you defended the administration's policy. When you look back at that moment, do you regret any of the positions that you advocated for on behalf of the administrations, the positions you take? Do you feel that you were complicit in advocating a narrative that turned out to be wrong?
No, I appreciate the question, because one thing that I really want to make clear is that I was speaking on behalf of the president. That is the job of the White House press secretary. I'm not speaking for Karine Jean-Pierre. I was speaking for Joe Biden. That's every White House press secretary. That is their job.
Well, you said now you speak for yourself.
Hold on. Wait, let me finish.
No, I know. I just wanted, because we're almost out of time. I just want to go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm going to get to it. Obviously, what's happening is heartbreaking.
If she's unwilling to directly criticize Biden over foreign policy while speaking for herself, why is she leaving the party? Now, Becca Rothfield of the Washington Post, in her review of Karine Jean-Pierre's book, summarized it perfectly. Imagine parting ways with the Democratic Party, not because of its unwavering support of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as he violated international law and waged a bloody campaign against civilians in Gaza, not because of its humiliating failure to mount meaningful opposition to the Trump administration's assault on just about everything of value in the country. Not because it continues to run candidates in their 70s and 80s, one of whom opted to die in office at 90 rather than cede her seat to someone younger. Not because of its inability to expand access to health care or protect immigrants or tax the wealthy or really get anything done at all. Not because of its politely non-committal effect and rhetoric of facile uplift or its members' tendency to address the public as if they are delivering the keynote at a corporate retreat, not because the Democrats have no political vision, something of a liability for a political party, but rather because of the single sensible, if very belated thing they have done in recent memory, which was to usher a doddering Joe Biden out of the 2024 presidential race. And that's her issue here. It's that they pushed Joe Biden out, and perhaps the most damning press hit from her press tour came today in the form of a Q&A from the New Yorker's Isaac Chotiner, who is the absolute best at this. In response to Jean-Pierre lamenting this coordinated campaign within the Democratic Party to oust Biden from the ticket, Chotiner asks, "Sure, but why were they doing that?" She replied, "Because they believed he needed to step aside." There's more to this than just that period of time. This is very layered, right? There's a period of time that I questioned what was happening and how do we treat our own? How do we treat people who are decent people? And then you also have to think about how I'm thinking about this as a Black woman who is part of the LGBTQ community and living in this time where I also don't think Democrats right now, Democrats leadership is protecting vulnerable people in the way it should. And Chotiner says, sorry, I'm not trying to be dense. I'm a little unclear about what this has to do with Democratic leaders and many Democrats in this country thinking that Joe Biden was going to lose to Donald Trump, which was what the polls all showed, and therefore thinking that he should be replaced. She replies, okay, wait a minute, hold on a second. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows what would have happened. People also thought that if you replaced Joe Biden, we were going to win or have a better chance of winning. Millions of people who showed up in 2020 didn't show up in 2024. We can't forget that there was an incumbency issue as well. This is real. There are like several G10 countries with incumbents who did not get reelected. There was an incumbency issue as well. Chotiner replies, I'm not sure what you're saying. Then later in the conversation, Jean-Pierre tried to make the case that polling has been wrong in prior elections and that polling showing Trump ahead couldn't be relied on. He says the polling was pretty accurate in 2022, but go on. Well, okay, but remember, it was reported that there would be a red wave. You're right, there was a lot of talk of a red wave. She says, so there was no red wave. He was an incumbent and he was the only person to have beaten Donald Trump. Those were the things that were true and in front of him, and he was being encouraged by Democrats in leadership to run. So you have no concern, even to this day, that Joe Biden could serve as president through January 2029, he asks. She says, I did not see anything that would have given me concern. And Chotiner says, but you watched TV like the rest of us, right? Cenk, I can't wrap my head around what the core premise of this book is and why people should believe it. Because on the one hand, she's saying, we need to be independent. We need to make our own choices. And I don't fit in either party. But at the same time, she's saying that Joe Biden should have continued and stayed in the race. He would have been perfect. And there's nothing at all whatsoever that she saw that would have dissuaded her from that point. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think she's vacuous, to be honest. I don't think she has any idea what she's talking about. She just keeps going back to the same old talking points. I'm a Black woman. I'm queer. So what? So I'm alive. That's it. You got to listen to me. I'm a Black woman. I'm queer. What does that have anything to do with what the hell we're talking about? Okay, I'm a Muslim man. That's it. You have to listen to me. Why? Why? There's tons of millions of Muslim men who make no sense. I don't know why you keep saying that. Okay, so you left the Democratic Party. So I remember when she said it, no, that's it, I'm an independent now. I was like, I was really curious. Okay, because I love independence. What made you an independent? They were mean to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That's your reason? That's your reason. And you're gonna rally people around that? Oh, I wanna start a third party of independents who thought that the people in power were just too mean to Joe Biden. They should have covered up his dementia for much longer. And they should have, just like we did with Feinstein, just roll him around in a wheelchair and go, this is how he votes, shut up. I'm a black queer woman, I'm telling you how he votes, shut up, don't question me. That's your premise for an independent? Please. Look, Becca Rothfeld that you quoted earlier, I can't believe they allowed this in the Washington Post. It must be a new day. Anyway, brilliant, scathing article about the book. I'm gonna read you 2 more quotes because I love it so much. She wrote, calls for an open primary were an insult to Harris? Jean-Pierre exclaims. Never mind whether the vice president's coronation was an insult to voters who might have preferred to be consulted. Thank you, Becca. Exactly right, okay? So she's like, oh, they insulted Kamala Harris. Do they not know she has the most important qualification? She checks off both woman and black and, oh, wait a minute, and Asian. She won the gender identity, racial identity prize. That's it, we win. That's not how it works, sister. It's just not. So last one here, because I could quote the entire thing for you. Check it out, Becca Rothfeld at Washington Post, great job. Jean-Pierre's true concern, her only real subject, is the Democrats' lack of decorum. Instead of endeavoring to convince us that Harris was the best presidential candidate because of her platform or her popularity, Jean-Pierre gestures meekly at demographics and invokes tired dynastic norms. Harris was Biden's logical successor, and she was clearly next in line. And quote, bypassing her would have been disrespectful to black women overall. Never mind the rather central question or whether she was actually electable. Thank you, Becca Rothfeld, exactly right. And Karine Jean-Pierre shows no interest in whether Biden and Harris are electable. All she cares about was black woman, be respected, powerful Democrat, Democratic leader, bow, everybody bow. No, we didn't bow, Karine, we didn't bow. And if that makes you want to be an independent and be the only person in your political category, the one person obsessed with you, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden's feelings, have at it, Hoss. Try to start a movement around it. But leave the rest of us alone. This is garbage. This is, it makes no sense at all. So, look, guys, the reason why I'm obsessed about all that, identity politics garbage is because that is what has lost Democrats elections time and time again. Not because they defend Muslims like me or transgender people or black people or women or queer people. No. That would be a winning strategy when we say we represent all Americans and we serve all Americans equally. No, Karine Jean-Pierre and some of the most corrupted Democrats don't say that. They say, our identity should win. I'm a queer black woman, so who cares about the Palestinians? Yeah, we murdered the Palestinians. Yeah, Joe Biden did that. I love Biden. You're being impolite to Biden. Yeah, that led to the massacre of 70,000 Palestinians at a bare minimum. 20,000 of their kids were killed because we funded it. But who cares about the stupid Palestinians? I win on identity politics because I'm black, I'm a woman, and I'm queer, and you must listen to me. That's not how it works. And the last thing that Becca Rothfeld said that was so on point. Yes, but you're supposed to actually deliver for those categories of people. Not just say, because I'm in one of those categories or multiple of those categories, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to deliver for black people, queer people, women. I don't have to deliver for anyone, and Biden didn't and Kamala didn't. But you're being impolite by questioning our leadership. You should bow your head. Yeah, no, absolutely no one is going to do that. So go and enjoy this non-political movement of someone who is so obsessed with themselves and her beloved bosses. The three of you can go have a party somewhere. Kamala Harris says she's going to run again. Come on, can't wait to see you in the primary. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Okay, you run on that garbage and you'll find out. Okay, and you know what? Good news, you could have Karine Jean-Pierre as your communications director. She'll be amazing at it. She'll do nothing but kiss your ass and not care about the actual Democratic voters, American citizens, Palestinians, or anyone else. Okay, lastly, Anna Kasparian, my co-host, is gonna be on CNN tonight. They're gonna discuss the same thing. What is the state of the Democratic Party? One of the other panelists is going to be Neera Tanden, Establishment 101 Washington, D.C. figure. So that could be explosive. I don't know how it's gonna go. CNN tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern. I don't often tell you to watch CNN, But Anna versus an establishment Democrat, that could be interesting.
Just want to add one piece of context from like what you were saying. She routinely in interviews and publicity events for this book has pointed to her identity. And look, to be clear, and I don't think anyone's interpreting this way, we have no problem. We celebrate more diversity, more inclusion, the further advancement of people who are in underrepresented or marginalized groups in this country. I think we're all on board with that. What we don't like is the cynical deployment of that in spaces or conversations that are rooted in different substantive policy issues. And what was so interesting in that Chotiner interview in the New Yorker was the cynical deployment of her identity on 7 different occasions. He was asking her questions about things she wrote or things she claimed or the maneuvering of the Democrats to oust Biden from the ticket because they knew it was going to be bad and lead to Trump's reelection. And on 7 different occasions, she talked about her experience. No, I understand you have a different life and a different background, but in no way does that shape a national conversation on who should be the president. And she did it in the MSNBC interview. She continues to try to bring this up. When we are talking about something that is rooted in millions of voters' perspectives and polling data that showed that Biden was not the guy. So on the one hand, yes, we want a more inclusive society. On the other hand, I reject the cynical deployment of identity politics in these conversations.
Exactly. All right, we gotta go. Jordan, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Sharon's gonna come up next. We got a lot more stories for you guys, including Donald Trump deciding that we're going to level devastating tariffs on a country because they hurt his feelings. Of course. We'll be right back.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong, because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was mad. Cenk Uygur, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
Cenk the Turk Uygur.
What kind of TV station is this? The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It was right out of like Wayne's World.
This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
Television, we're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
If Phil and host beat CNN and headline news combined, at some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a tall glass of shut up juice.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can, quote, support him.
He says to me, "You won't believe the meeting that I just had."
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
And they want him off the air.
Cenk took an incredible risk.
We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what he did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I should be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing a national show. I guarantee it.
Magic. It's showtime. And say 45 minutes.
I'm hosting today.
Now, I know what you're thinking, JR, your face is already perfect, but you know what? I still need to apply some makeup. I went through this process, right, a few years ago, when I realized that I was gonna have to wear makeup on the show. I had to go through, like, finding out what my undertones were. You guys know what those are? I got my MAC Cosmetics. It says SPF 15 foundation, broad spectrum. But Apparently, what I have is red undertones, and I think pores are not supposed to be seen. I need all these things to be confirmed for me. These sponge things don't work for me. You gotta use your hands. At least I do. That's how the magic really happens. So we're gonna go through a tutorial how to make the magic happen from beautiful to beautifuler. Let's go. I've already been moisturized. That's the first thing. But moisturization already happened. We go raw, all hands. Pick up a couple streaks. This is the guy way of putting on makeup. Look at that, dots. There's some shiny points that generally happen. First of all, here we go. You dust here. I'm putting way too much, but you dust. Oh, get the excess off. You don't want chunky powder. There's like a T-zone, I think, right? Mine is a double T-zone. Because I went middle and another cross. Make sure your nose isn't all shiny. People get on you for it. You know, say, that's not a good point you made on there, JR. Your nose is shiny. You guys are picky like that sometimes. I think that's about it, fellas and ladies. See you guys next time. Bitsies.
Audio is hovering at minus 12 decibels. We're go.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk Uygur, Sharon Reed with you guys. So much more news. Sharon, take it away.
Yeah, let's start with this one, dementia, Cenk. This is one that a lot of people are talking about today. Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton, 88 years old, non-voting member of Congress from Washington, is facing renewed questions about her fitness to serve. The questions are coming on the heels of an alleged $4,000 fraud targeting her inside her own DC home. According to a police report first obtained by NBC4 Washington, Norton was the victim of an apparent scam on Thursday, October 24th. Individuals posing as HVAC workers entered her Southeast DC home. They charged her more than $4,300 for services that were never rendered. That report also stated that Norton is in the early stages of dementia, although her office strongly disputes that characterization. Staffers putting up a fight there. Her spokesperson said that Norton, quote, doesn't have a caretaker and instead relies on a trusted employee and friend who manages household logistics. Police say the fraud is now under felony investigation. Credit card company was notified. The charges were eventually canceled. So Norton, who has held her seat since 1991, says she plans to run for re-election. She'll do that again next year. According to the congresswoman, in September, she stated, I say that my seniority is what is very important, and I'm not going to step aside. Just weeks earlier, her own staff had urged caution, saying Norton was still in conversations with her family, friends, and closest advisors to decide what's best. So there are questions, Cenk, about whether this longtime congresswoman, whether we've seen perhaps enough of her, and also questions about whether this is about her conduct or those around her and their own self-preservation. What say you?
Yeah, so of course it's about her own self-preservation, but it's not just about that. She clearly has dementia. It's her staffers. It's whoever is pulling the strings. She's not making her own decisions, they are. And so I saw this movie before. It was called the Dianne Feinstein story. And in that case, it became clear after a long time, the person that was constantly escorting her turned out to be Nancy Pelosi's sister. Come on. Having nothing to do with Feinstein's office. They had her in a wheelchair. She would repeat one sentence after, and then again and again and again. She couldn't answer questions. She would then say either the same exact thing or the exact opposite. There was no question she had dementia, and the Democratic leadership was like, fantastic. Like before, we have to kind of bother to ask them before we make them do what the donors want. Now we don't even have to ask them. Okay, yes, Feinstein votes with the donors every single time. But to be fair, Feinstein voted with the donors every single time anyway. Now it's Eleanor Holmes Norton. Before it was also Joe Biden. And by the way, on the Republican side, you have Mitch McConnell freezing. And they're like, no, nothing to see. The donors are in charge. I mean, he's a puppet. I mean, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's not fine. Eleanor Holmes Norton needs to retire, needs to be in a place where nurses can take care of her and she can live out the rest of her life in somewhat peace and comfort instead of these jackals that are like, just moving her along going, yeah, I represent her. Yeah, she's of sound mind. Don't listen to her. Shut up, Eleanor. Shut up. Okay, I'm the one in charge. Who elected you? Who elected you? No one elected you. And and Eleanor Holmes Norton, she says, oh, my seniority is important. Really? To what? What have you gotten passed? What are you gonna get passed under Trump where your seniority is important? I got news for everyone in Washington. Your seniority is irrelevant, it's counterproductive. It involves you taking more bribes than other people. Oh, but the donor class is giving me money for decade after decade. That's why my seniority is so important. I'm a proven commodity to the corporate world and to foreign governments. That's not that interesting a bragging point. I hate to break it to you. And I'm not saying that in regards to Eleanor Holmes Norton. Her record is mixed, some good things, some bad things, etc. But overall, your seniority is nothing but an albatross around your neck. And when you're 88 years old, you clearly have dementia, and you're bragging about how you've been there for 34 years, it's not the win you think it is. You gotta go. It's non-negotiable. You gotta go. And Sharon, one of the things I'm most upset about is that they don't care at all about the damage that they're doing to their own party. So now this is the Democrats going, oh, Joe Biden's fine, Feinstein's fine, Fetterman is fine, and Eleanor Holmes Norton is fine. I mean, then people look at it and go, the Democratic Party leadership doesn't represent the voters at all. All they care about is entrenched power, being deeply corrupt, deeply undemocratic. And when it comes to the leadership of the Democratic Party, it becomes impossible to argue when you have people like Eleanor Holmes Norton still hanging on there.
And on that note, Cenk, we should tell you Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader, he's still standing by her. He says it's up to the elders to decide for themselves. Jamie Raskin did say she's an icon, Holmes Norton, but he said it's going to take a new generation of leadership to win statehood in the battles of the day. So he's not actually, pushing her, but he's saying a little something. Donna Brazile, Democratic operative, who said that Eleanor Holmes Norton was like a mother to her, second mother, said it's in her best interest and the interest of DC for her to serve her current term, but then end her extraordinary service in Congress and not seek re-election next year. So it's just very gentle, comforting little cuddles. And then there's this, Cenk, an investigative report from Luke Goldstein, Dan Bugaslaw on Substack that found that Representative Norton has not one, not two, but 7 no-show positions still listed on her financial disclosures. Let's run them down for you. The roles include Executive Committee of the Yale Law School Association, Board of Trustees for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, the advisory boards at the Women's Law and Public Policy Fellowship Program at Georgetown. I mean, just look at them. It's for someone who was just scammed out of $4,300, I guess that theoretically could happen to anyone, and has staff members having to pretty much prop up what's going on here. It's pretty sad. We contacted the half dozen boards she claims to sit on at elite institutions and found that 3 of them had not heard from her in years. 2 of them don't even exist anymore. We reached out to each of these boards to ask what exactly Norton does in these roles. After repeated attempts, not a single one could confirm Norton's attendance. American universities seemed genuinely confused by our inquiry. I mean, this is the reporting. The Women in Politics Institute no longer has an advisory board, they wrote. The authors say the fact that these positions are still on her disclosures suggests that her staff has been resubmitting portions of her ethics forms on autopilot. Her office did not respond to multiple requests for comment. It's not just these no-show positions that she is not participating in, it's her actual job. 2 congressional sources who spoke with deeper states confirmed that Holmes Norton is largely absent from committee meetings and planning sessions. So you're right. This whole seniority thing, despite, look, we're also in a time where you have people like Mamdani, who is getting such interest and support, really grassroots, but it's not doing anything. She's not showing up. She's apparently not engaged in any way. And this is bordering on just fraudulent. It's sad, and sad mostly for her constituents.
Yeah, so that's funny you say that, because that's exactly what I was going to build on, right? They keep saying like, oh no, but you're being impolite to Eleanor Holmes. Let's at least let her finish this term, even though obviously she's not there mentally. But when are we ever going to be polite to the voters? I mean, we just covered the story of Karine Jean-Pierre saying, oh, I left the Democratic Party because Democrats were unbearably impolite to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and myself. Who cares about you guys? You're supposed to be representing the voters, but Washington is obsessed with how polite they are to one another and to the powerful. I've said this on the show for over 20 years now. The number 1 rule in Washington is do not ever be rude to another insider. To them, like pampering the insiders, lying on behalf of the insiders, covering up for all the crimes of the insiders, and being genteel with and civil to the insiders is the most important rule, right? Oh, the voters, it's like an afterthought. They never even think about the voters. How about her voters, the people who need to be represented? They're like, oh, please, you're being impolite to the powerful. Yeah, I am, and that's why I'm hated in Washington. I love being impolite to the powerful. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I'm here to represent you guys. They're here to represent the powerful. Last thing, 7 no-show jobs. Come on, man, come on. So this is the same, even if all you cared about was being polite to Joe Biden, having him stay in that race was a disaster. And that's one of the arguments I made to his top leadership. I said, I know you guys are all obsessed with Joe Biden above everyone. Screw the whole country but Joe Biden. But I'm like, how's it gonna end with Joe? If he retires and does it with a year left and he hands it off, he's gonna be considered a conquering hero. He beat Donald Trump, he passed the baton, nice job, right? But if he hangs in there and gets annihilated by Trump because he can't speak, well, then he's gonna go out as a GOAT, not a greatest of all time, but as the guy who's taking all the blame because he deserves all the blame. And now the entire country hates Joe Biden. So now they want that for Eleanor Holmes Norton. Oh my God, we want to kiss her ass. Well, now we found out she has 7 no-show jobs. So did that help? No, it's now destroying her legacy. Congratulations, ass kissers. You didn't help the voters, you didn't help her, and you certainly didn't help the party, because this is exactly what's hurting the Democratic Party. This kind of insular obsession with helping themselves and never the voters.
Yeah, and we're gonna take a quick break, but I will say this. It's disqualifying to so many people who look at Kamala Harris, who look at Mayor Pete, all of these people who stood there, either you saw something or you didn't. And it really ruins this future, this pipeline of talent, whether people believe they were the right choices or not. It's very damaging. Much more to come after a quick social break.
All right, let's start with YouTube members this time. Jeffrey Dottie says, Sharon is so smart and pretty, period. And then he put in an exclamation point, which is kind of ironic. but
I would like to say thank you, but can I say, didn't brush my hair, got caught in the rain. My daughter told me I was the worst mother ever. And I clapped back in the rudest way saying, I know moms that I've reported on that put kids in cages, so I can't be the worst, okay? There's gotta be somebody else out there. So thank you, that's a wonderful comment.
I agree that it's a wonderful comment. Thank you guys. You guys are way too kind to all of us, though Sharon deserves it. Robert Turks said, I would like to thank all of you for teaching me the truth. Wow, didn't know anything until I started watching all of you. Now TYT is my favorite network. Well, Robert, you're amazing for saying that. We appreciate you. And thank you for being a member. If it wasn't for you, Robert, we don't have a show like this. So thank you to all the members. Frank Thorne said, I mean, we got no, like the powerful are not fond of us. So we need all the grassroots donations, joins, etc. tyt.com/join. Appreciate you. Frank Thorne said term limits would limit donors' power. They would. That's true. Marcos Dominguez says, I was hoping that we've seen the last of this type of identity politics. No, in Washington, they're the last ones to always get a clue. Nope, identity politics all the way. And like we've been saying, if you actually delivered for that identity, then at least there's some value in it. But they never even bother doing that. They're like, what? I'm in that identity. That's it. I've been taken care of. I'm rich. I'm famous. So that's good. All queer black women are good now. No, they're not. Only you're good. Okay, in terms of finance and all those other things. Anyway, Barry Motiva writes in, why does mainstream news want Anna on so frequently? Does their internal polling show they want honesty? Look, by the way, I don't know anything about their internal polling. I'm sure she's good for the ratings. She's terrific on the show. And everybody can tell. She always has all the information at the go, right? Everybody's always impressed by that. She's passionate, but not unruly, right? She's kind of, they'd be nuts not to want her on all the time. Look, I'm worried that they're gonna make her an offer because she's just too good as a host. And so the only reason why they don't have me on, my guess, I don't know, they didn't tell me, is that I'm a ruffian, I'm a barbarian. And so they're like, no. No, you cannot question central premise that the powerful are the greatest people on earth. And you should always bow your head to them. So anyways, it doesn't matter. I love that they have Anna on, and not every show's the same. Abby Phillips' show actually gives people an opportunity to talk. Like, yes, even though I get super frustrated with him these days, Chris Cuomo back in the day when he was on CNN would let everyone talk. And so that's it. Piers Morgan does that online now. There's great value in that, even though the rest of the cable news is a junkyard. Anyway, Amelia W says, Stewart may be the only Dem I'd switch my green vote for. Interestingly, Jon Stewart? I like to hear that, that's awesome. And way to be open-minded. Nerd Ferguson says, when people take the oath of office, they may as well just add the line, till death do us part. I mean, these days, right? It's a good point. Teddy Lucy Linda says, yes, I'm so thrilled to continue to pay a senile old woman who contributes nothing. Great use of tax dollars. A lot more where that came from, but we're out of time. We'll be right back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Sharon Reed with you guys. Also, Darren Kronberger. Darren, thanks for joining through the join button on YouTube. We appreciate you. Everybody, you can, of course, donate or join through tyt.com/join. Visionary wrote in, Cenk, I just set my alarm for 9:55 p.m. Eastern to listen to Anna on CNN. I posted to Abby Phillip that I watch her now because of Anna and her including bona fide progressives on her show and treating them with respect. Visionary, I love that you did that. That is quite visionary of you. Everybody, if you can, do likewise, because it makes a big difference when they hear from you guys. And I appreciate that you did that. All right, Sharon, what's next?
We'll pick up with Canada crash out.
Canada has been ripping us off for a long time. One of the most difficult countries to deal with has been Canada. As much as I love Canada itself and the people of Canada, they've just had a lot of bad representatives. They did a fake ad yesterday. They were caught. The Ronald Reagan Foundation was the one that caught them. And it was totally the opposite of what they said. So I don't like that. That's dirty pool. And you can't do that.
One Donald Trump crashing out yet again, announcing over the weekend he was canceling all trade negotiations and raising tariffs with Canada over an ad. The decision was made late Thursday night after Trump got word of this 1-minute TV ad sponsored by the Ontario government. Watch.
Says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports. It looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
So there's the ad. Look, Cenk, some ads resonate with people, some are forgettable. Before we get into more of the details, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I get it. Ontario, Canada is striking back, and it's going to be popular with Canadians who are furious at America for doing the tariffs. That is a real speech by Ronald Reagan. And what they didn't anticipate is that Donald Trump is so thin-skinned, so, honestly so weak, that anything that he perceives to be an insult of him, he will then commandeer American foreign policy and economic policy to try to soothe his feelings. So let's give you the rest of the story. Let's talk about whether that, Reagan really said those things. And is Trump really doing this just because of his feelings? Collective punishment of a whole nation, our top ally, because his feelings were hurt? Well, as you'll see, yes.
Yes. Trump not happy at all. In fact, he was furious. He posted this to Truth Social: Canada cheated and got caught. They fraudulently took a big buy ad saying that Ronald Reagan did not like tariffs when actually he loved tariffs for our country and its national security. Canada is trying to illegally influence the United States Supreme Court, and one of the most important rulings in the history of our country. Canada has long cheated on tariffs, charging our farmers as much as 400%. Now they and other countries can't take advantage of the US any longer. Thank you to Ronald Reagan Foundation for exposing this fraud. Make America great again. He then doubled down Saturday. He added this: Canada was caught red-handed. They did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks. Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute is reviewing its legal options in this matter. And the sole purpose of this fraud was Canada's hope that the United States Supreme Court will come to their rescue on tariffs that they have used for years to hurt the United States. Now the United States is able to defend itself against high and overbearing Canadian tariffs and those from the rest of the world as well. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs for purposes of national security and the economy, but Canada said he didn't. What Trump's referring to here is the Supreme Court upcoming hearing to review challenges to Trump's tariffs on November 5th, including some he's placed on Canadian exports. Trump ended with this: because of their serious misrepresentation of the facts and hostile act, I am increasing the tariff on Canada by 10% over and above what they are paying now. It's unclear exactly what the 10% would apply to, what specific goods, but let's break down exactly what Trump is so mad about. The audio in the ad fraudulent, trying to convince the Supreme Court to feel sorry for them? The answer is no, it's not fraudulent. The audio in the ad is authentic, and it came from a 5-minute speech Reagan did in April 1987 about free and fair trade when he announced his decision to impose tariffs on Japan. Edits were made to the audio, however, and his words were spliced together and reordered, but still the edits did not alter the substance of Reagan's words.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So Reagan did some tariffs, and he also was massively for open trade. And in that speech, which is real, he was trying to make sure that we did not pass more restrictive trade bills against Japan. So the essence of what he's saying is definitely correct, meaning that that is actually Reagan's words, and he meant it. So what? So Reagan was against most tariffs. Trump is in favor of a lot of tariffs. What's the big deal? I don't know what the big deal is. So, okay, so Biden was this and Obama was that and Clinton was, so what? I don't care what they thought. And that hurt your feelings so much that you decided that you were gonna do collective punishment, that you were gonna do 10% extra tariff. By the way, not just on Canadians, but us Americans, we have to pay the tariff. So it hurts their businesses, but it hurts our pocketbook. We gotta pay 10% more for everything coming out of Canada because Donald Trump's fifis were hurt by a rando ad from about Ronald Reagan from like a million years ago. That's your reason for tariffs? Not because it would be economically advantageous, because if it was, you would have already done the extra 10%. You're saying, no, this is for an extra 10% because my feelings were hurt. This is how a rational person is gonna make a decision. Remember, the president is supposed to be your representative. He's supposed to represent us Americans. We voted for him. We're saying, go get him, big guy, you represent us. And what he's saying is, oh yeah, you're all gonna have to pay more because my feelings were hurt. All right, brother, all right. Can you get a therapist or something? Like, because every time your feelings are slightly hurt, Trump thin skin is like, oh my God, fraudulent ad about Reagan. Oh, for Christ's sake, man. Okay, so, and then he says, Canada's trying to illegally influence us here in America. Israel is not illegally influencing us, but it's big bad Canada that's got us under their control, under their thumb. Canada PAC is the one giving the 90% of Congress and having them vote for $300 billion in subsidies to Canada? No. Canada PAC gave you $337 million? Oh no, it was the Israeli lobby that gave you $337 million. And that's just from the Adelsons, let alone the rest of the Israeli lobby. Okay, but yeah, Canada's the evil giant conspiring to trick us with Ronald Reagan ads. If you believe that, there's not much I can do to help you.
Just real quick before we break, you revere the Gipper like so many conservatives do. Why would the Reagan Foundation play along with this? Why would they sully the great Gipper's tariff reputation?
Well, because they want to kiss Trump's ass, because they're in Washington, and almost everybody in Washington is an ass kisser. The only question is, which ass are they going to kiss? So they, the Reagan Foundation would be like, oh, Reagan, who cares? He's dead already. Oh, Trump, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, Reagan would have agreed with you. Even though that speech is totally accurate. He would have agreed with you. Oh, he would have loved the tariffs, especially on hurt feelings. Oh, Reagan had a whole section, we got a section in the library about hurt feelings and how he punished whole countries and America if you hurt Reagan's feelings. Oh no, even that doesn't exist, huh, interesting. But that'll be like 90% of Donald Trump's presidential library and picture books.
Another quick social break, much more to come.
let's go to members on tyt.com. Pseudo Dragon said, yeah, that's why Reagan signed the Canada-US free trade agreement. Okay, one great point. Two, but remember, Trump also signed a free trade agreement with Canada and Mexico. He's violating his own agreement because they hurt his fifis. So strong. Solidarity Works says, hearing Trump chumps ridiculously predictably lying voice while I listen to TYT and kind of work simply makes me burst into laughter now. Bitter laughter, shaking my head, of course. Such an evil clown. Yeah, she drives me crazy, man. Anyway, so now we go to Stiff Upper Lib. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read the first sentence and dispense with it. Said, on a side note, is there any chance that TYT and the majority report can get along? Look, guys, I've been through this a million times. Look, I don't care. So they decided that they were going to go on a warpath over the Anna tweet to be. That's how all this started, right? She said, look, I don't mind people being called birthing persons or whatever. I'm happy to call you whatever you want, but I prefer to be called a woman. And apparently that was such an outrageous fascist thing to say that it started this giant war. And then they just keep like, they attack our sponsors. That's super weirdo. Like, and then, oh yeah, let's try to defund them and take away their audience. So look, whatever, dude, whatever. Like, so I don't really care if they want to be productive and they want to help, or hey, you know what? They eclipse us and they're like the greatest progressive show of all time. They're getting progressives elected nonstop. They've introduced so many progressive hosts to the media ecosystem and they're killing it and they're getting bills passed. Oh, fantastic. Then I would love it. And I'd go, atta boy, atta girl, way to go, right? But they're not doing any of that. Like they love the snark stuff and they think, ha, and they love to attack other hosts on their own side. That's like their favorite thing in the world. So, okay, they could snark away and they could do all that stuff. And if you like it, go for it. But you see us being productive nonstop. You see us fighting for you nonstop. Well, where did Emma even get started? Here. Where did half of the progressive hosts you see now crap talking us or just existing? Like in a wonderful way. There's great progressives that came through here. There's people who pretended to be progressive, etc. Where did they come from? They came from TYT. So, okay, they could choose to like, oh, our main mission is to tear down the largest progressive network because we ran out of things to do, because like Trump's not president. Whatever games they want to play, let them play those games. But like, guys, it's not incumbent upon me to go and try to make amends with people who are weirdly, unfairly attacking us. If they want to apologize, great, fine, I'll have a conversation. But they're not gonna do that because they're egotistical and they're like, so all they're gonna do is attack and blah, blah, blah. Just let them alone. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Sharon with you guys. Sharon, what's next?
Cenk, we have snap lapse.
Today marks day 27 of the government shutdown, and still there's no resolution in sight. Senate lawmakers return to Washington this afternoon, but the House remains in recess. Despite this, House Democrats are set to meet this week at the direction of Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Additionally, after a Republican-backed bill to pay federal employees and contractors who continue to work without pay failed to advance last week, Senator Ron Johnson, who sponsored that bill, said he would look to continue talks with Democrats this week in hopes of passing it. Over the weekend, President Trump spoke to reporters, reiterating he'd be willing to meet with Jeffries to negotiate on health care if Democrats would reopen the government first.
There you have it. As the government shutdown is set to enter its 5th week on Wednesday, Democrats and Republicans still remain at an impasse with no resolution in sight. And now the situation has become even more dire for Americans after the Agriculture Department announced Saturday SNAP benefits would not be issued November 1. That affects over 40 million Americans. Cenk, before we get into the details of this one and what the USDA said, what are your thoughts?
I think that Republican leaders should have the courage of their convictions. You despise SNAP. You're the ones that are cutting the program. You're the ones who shut down the government. But even if you want to debate whether who shut down the government, good, we'll have that debate in a second. But don't tell me that Democrats are welfare queens and all they want to do is give everybody food stamps and then say, can you believe Democrats are taking away your food stamps? No, we all see you, man. I know in the old days you had mainstream media who would just lie to everyone. Now there's online media. We see you. It's definitely Republican politicians taking away SNAP. And Sharon, even if you're a right-wing viewer right now, are you saying that the Republicans want to give away as much food stamps as possible? And that you're proud of that? No, I mean, nobody in their right mind, whether they're right-wing or left-wing, could make that argument except the giant liars that are Republican leadership. I literally don't see any other answer than that in this regard.
No, absolutely. And there's this, as we promised, USDA on Saturday posted this message to their website. Senate Democrats have now voted 12 times to not fund the food stamp program, also known as the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP. Bottom line, the well is run dry. At this time, there will be no benefits issued November 1. We are approaching an inflection point for Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures, or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable among us can receive critical nutrition assistance. So a warning was given earlier this month by Ronald Ward, the acting associate administrator for SNAP, who wrote in a letter October 10th this: as stated in our lapse of appropriation correspondence dated October 1, SNAP has funding available for benefits and operations through the month of October. However, if the current lapse in appropriations continues, there will be insufficient funds to pay full November SNAP benefits for approximately 42 million individuals across the nation. So pay attention to what he said at the end there, pay full SNAP benefits. To be clear, the well has not run dry. There's between 5 billion and 6 billion currently in that fund, experts say. That's not enough to cover the estimated 8 billion in SNAP benefits due out next month, but it would allow for partial payments to help low-income Americans defray food costs. They're holding that money hostage to put pressure on Senate Democrats. In a memo, the USDA said the reason is simple. The contingency fund was designed to respond to unforeseen events like natural disasters, and the current shutdown does not qualify because it was manufactured by Democrats. To spend the money on SNAP benefits during such an event, the USDA argues would be illegal. However, memo contradicts the shutdown plan prepared by USDA earlier in the year, which said the department is legally obligated to pay SNAP benefits in the event of a shutdown. Trump officials had located and were using stopgap funding to prop up the WIC program, which provides food aid to a smaller subset of people, including pregnant women, breastfeeding moms, and children under 5. To keep WIC benefits whole through October, Trump's budget team had tapped $300 million from the president's tariff revenues. So tariffs did something good, huh? But that money too is soon to expire, according to advocates, and there's no indication the administration is preparing a similar transfer for November. So keep in mind, as Republicans cry for their constituents over SNAP benefits, they forget they voted to cut SNAP by almost $186 billion over the next decade in Trump's big, beautiful bill. So that makes it the largest cut to SNAP in history, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. What is it that Democrats actually want is the question. Despite the threat to cut off food aid, Democrats are signaling they're not changing their strategy. And we need to be clear on what Democrats want versus what Republicans believe they want. Senator Ruben Gallego explained this on Meet the Press over the weekend. Listen.
Look, our focus right now is to keep costs low. Insurance premiums doubling for 24 million Americans. That is a decision that the Republicans are going to make, and then they have to own for the next year. And I'm not quite sure that a lot of Republicans in swing districts understand what they're about to do. I'll give a good example. In Arizona, a family of 4 is going to jump almost $3,500. That's $7,000 Someone's gonna have to pay for their health insurance. There's not, many families in this country do not have enough room for them to be able to afford that big of a jump.
So, Cenk, will starving mothers, babies turn their attention to Democrats and blame them for this? What happens next?
No. So first off, look, I've been doing this now for over 30 years, 23 years on the Young Turks. I can't stand the lies of the politicians anymore. I mean, you vote to cut SNAP by $186 billion. By the way, why did they do that? So they can give more to the rich. They did tax cuts for the rich. They moved about $150 billion to the Pentagon, pure pork for the defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, et cetera. So you took from the poor and you gave to the rich and to the corporate donors. Don't tell me you're here to protect SNAP, please. Just, do you have like a shred of decency in your body? No, you're not here to protect SNAP, you're here to destroy SNAP. So don't tell me the Democrats are doing it when the Republicans have been doing it my whole lifetime, and they're doing it right now, and they just voted to do it. And then they insult your intelligence, not if you're a left winger, if you're a right winger. They tell you, oh, the Democrats are doing this because they want healthcare for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures. Guys, that has nothing to do with this. You can have real fair argument and say, oh, they want to protect Obamacare. Yeah, but Gallego's right. If the Republicans get their way, your premiums are going to double for 24 million Americans. And Gallego's right, who can afford $7,000 a year for just your health care? How are you going to pay the rent? How are you going to pay for food? How are you going to pay for clothes? No, corporate rule is crushing us to oblivion. And the Republicans have helped. A lot of times the corporate Democrats help too. But in this case, the Democrats are saying, no, don't let these healthcare premiums double. That is what this entire shutdown fight is about. If they won on that, the government would be open tomorrow. You'd be getting the SNAP benefits. Your premiums wouldn't double. When the Democrats are wrong, we come out here and tell you all the time. We drive them crazy by telling you how many times the Democrats are wrong. But they're not wrong on this. And so the Republican leadership is trying to get you to believe that they're going to protect SNAP when they voted to cut it every single time and they just cut it to oblivion. No, and even their own voters, Sharon, to answer your question, won't believe this. Because if you told right-wing voters, oh, don't worry, Republican politicians want to protect food stamps, and the Democrats are trying to get rid of food stamps, even the Republican voters won't believe that. They've been doing propaganda against food stamps my entire lifetime. So which one is it? Are people taking food stamps to welfare queens like you've been telling me for 40 straight years, Republican politicians? Or all of a sudden are you trying to protect food stamps? Oh, you just found out that tens of millions of Americans get food stamps and they're gonna be pissed at you. So now after having done that for decade after decade and attacking those people for my entire life, now you wanna turn around and pretend you're their champion while you cut their legs out from underneath them? No, that crap's not gonna fly. This is 100% on Republican leadership.
Agree with everything you said, 100%. I just wonder if you're willing to go this far, cut $186 billion, right, over the decade from the program, and then lie about it. When will this end? If you're not gonna blame the Democrats and people are gonna look squarely at the Republican Party and these lies and this really a lack of heart, is that even gonna be enough for them to turn around and say, we better moonwalk some of this back? I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you need real Democratic leadership because Democratic leadership could push back on this messaging just like I just did right now. And then go ask them the question, which one are you? Are you for food stamps, which you claimed we're all for welfare queens, or are you against food stamps? Answer the goddamn question, answer the question. Look, real press, which is near impossible, but no, that's, to be fair, real journalism has begun in online media. If you're waiting for mainstream media to do real journalism, you'll wait your whole life. They love corporate politicians, Republican or Democrat, so you're never gonna get real reporting out of them. But real journalism would have to happen, it's beginning to happen online, or real leadership from the Democrats. We're trying, go support rebellionpact.com. Trying to start a rebellion in the Democratic Party. But other than that, the current crop is kind of hopeless. So it's the the Republican leadership that is deeply corrupt working with the very corrupt Democratic leadership whose job is to surrender. So that the fact they haven't surrendered yet is amazing. And by the way, we did a story about that last week. And why did they not surrender yet? Literally, Democratic senators complaining to mainstream media, we want to give up, but our voters won't let us. They want us to fight, but our job is to surrender to corporate Republicans. That's what our donors pay us for. They're saying it into the press. So this game is getting exposed. Good cop, bad cop. These two groups of people have been working to screw over the average American my whole life, and I just can't stand it anymore.
You're not a barbarian, Cenk. You're far from it.
Yeah, a lot would disagree, but thank you. All right, Sharon, you're the best. We appreciate you. Everybody stay right here. All the bonus episodes are free now. So thanks to the great generosity of our members. I do a little bonus episode at the end. That's just a little story I tell about from the day. I hope people are liking that. That's just for the members. But we're gonna do the Revolution episode next, and then we have an interview for you guys after that. But this time I'm gonna explain why we're doing the Revolution in the first place. So stay right here.
Your host, a Turkish barbarian. A Turkish barbarian.
All right, so we've been doing this revolution segments for a couple of weeks now. And then I realized, hey, I forgot to tell you why we're doing the revolution. Now, look, I don't really have to tell you because you already know. You can't stand the corruption. The politicians never work for us. And we're trying to get our democracy back so the politicians will actually work for us. But I want to show it to you in numbers and in facts and in statements from even politicians themselves. So to give you a sense of how corrupted this country has become, how much money did we spend in the 2024 election? Now, when I say we, I don't mean us, okay, the regular average American. No, I mean the donor class. How much did they spend? $15.9 billion. Okay, so let me ask you guys this. And if you're watching and you're part of mainstream media, man, would I love for you to answer this. But there's no way in the world you could answer it. So do you think that the $16 billion was for charity? Like, oh, you know what, golly gee, I gave to cancer research, then try to figure out how to beat heart disease. Oh, I know, I'll give it to politicians. Because politicians, man, they need it most of all, and they love the general welfare, and so I gotta help them out, okay? Or, and by the way, who are the people giving the money? Giant corporations, Apple, Facebook, ExxonMobil, Chevron, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and private companies like the Koch enterprises, okay? And companies you've never even heard of, right? And by the way, now allies of foreign governments, or that's been around for quite some time, at least with one particular government. Okay, so what do they want in return? So one idea is charity. They're just giving people, they don't want anything back. No. The good people at Pfizer, they don't want a competitive advantage over their competitors. They don't want their monopolies extended from 5 years to 12 years. Wait, they actually literally asked for that, huh? Interesting. They don't want you to not be able to negotiate drug prices and just pay whatever ransom price that they say. Oh, I'm hearing they actually did want that, huh? That's weird, that's interesting. So do you think it's for the general welfare? Do you think it's for their health or our health? No, come on, guys. Unless you're a moronic mainstream media reporter, you all know it's to get what they want. It's an investment. They're literally investing in buying our politicians to serve them instead of you. Now, to every American that's watching this, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or where you're on the political spectrum, you think what I just said is super obvious, right? Literally every mainstream media reporter says that's not true. No, they're not buying the politicians. The politicians are having real, honest debates. They have different ideology, and these donors just happen to agree with these politicians. It just happened. The politician, oh, look at that. That guy thinks we should give $35 billion every single year, take it from guys who can't afford to pay their rent, having trouble paying for their health care. Their daughter's got cancer. They're worried to death that they're gonna die. Give me your goddamn money. Give me your money. ExxonMobil wants it. $35 billion a year in oil subsidies. But wait a minute, those are the richest companies in the world. Nope, those politicians have decided. They genuinely just loved Chevron and ExxonMobil. Oh, look at that, I agree with you totally. Yes, the average American shouldn't get that money. The giant oil companies, the most profitable companies in the history of the world should get that money. The politicians genuinely believe that. And that's why ExxonMobil gave them money. That's what mainstream media reporters say. How stupid do they sound? They sound like the dumbest people in America, right? Because they're not doing news, they're doing propaganda. They just don't know it. Okay, now, let's talk about, I mentioned pharmaceutical companies. You could fill in any lobby here, but we're trying to lower drug prices because almost literally every single person in the country wants it, unless you work for Big Pharma or you're a greasy, corrupt politician. So how many greasy, corrupt politicians did they bribe legally? Well, let's go to this news report. A 2020 stat analysis found that more than 2/3 of Congress were receiving a check from pharmaceutical companies that year. 2/3 of Congress. Gee, I wonder why they bought Democrats and Republicans. Gee, I wonder why they bought 2/3 of Congress. I bet it was for general welfare. I am a reporter. All right, more recent data from Open Secrets likewise confirms that a large majority of leaders serving in the US Congress and Senate receive significant contributions from pharmaceutical or health products companies, averaging $45,000 and $47,000 for Republicans and Democrats in the House of Representatives, respectively, and $50,000 and $69,000 for Republicans and Democrats in the Senate. So it costs you a little bit more to buy senators than congressmen, but it's an open auction. And Israel pays a different price, and the defense contractors pay a different price, and the chip manufacturers pay a different price. And they all buy these politicians. And by the way, that explains the mystery of why we have politicians that are so old and feeble, because they are guaranteed return on investment. When you pay off Joe Biden, he's always gonna deliver for you. When you pay off Mitch McConnell, he's so deeply corrupt, he's always gonna pay off for you. Lindsey Graham, Nancy Pelosi, they're all the same. They take the same money from the same donor class. Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi have both raised about $1 billion that they have shared with their fellow Democrats and Republicans. Those are all bribes that they paid out to them. Now everybody remember, oil subsidies, yeah, billions of dollars. Oh, the average guy in Kentucky, who cares about him? Let's kick him in the nuts, okay? Who asked about the average voter? You're fired, get out of here. Only people who work for donor class. So 2/3 of Congress includes Democrats and Republicans. We just gave you the actual numbers for the bribes that pharmaceutical companies are willing to pay. How many people in mainstream media call it bribes when they're obviously bribes? Obviously bribes. None, zero. In fact, if you call it bribes, that's outrageous. That's a conspiratorial. That's how you're doing a conspiracy theory? That ExxonMobil cares about profits when they obviously care with their big giant oil heart about the American people, and they're doing this on behalf of Americans everywhere. I mean, come on, they sound so stupid that it's like, really, like, what do we, did the short bus drive into New York Times and CNN and MSNBC and off you go. Yeah, ExxonMobil and Lockheed Martin only care about the Americans. The average voters, that's why they're getting all the subsidies and all the wars that they want. Guys, look, to be fair to mainstream media who hates me, I've earned their hatred, and I'm proud that I've earned their hatred because they are giant liars. They lie to you more than anyone online. No, come on, there's crazy people online. I mean, what lunatic tells you that these pharmaceutical companies are bribing 2/3 of Congress for your benefit and not because they want higher drug prices and higher profits? Please spare me. Breaking down the numbers individually, continuing, Jacob has a nice report here. Breaking down the numbers individually, at least 72 of the 100 sitting US senators last year received at least $10,000 from employees or PACs associated with pharmaceutical/health product companies in the 2024 election cycle, with 12 senators receiving more than $100,000, including 7 Democrats and 5 Republicans. So 72% of the senators are taking bribes. I mean, charitable contributions from the drug companies, who I'm sure have our best interest in mind. Oh, I'm sorry, for a second I lapsed into an early Halloween outfit of dumbass mainstream media reporter. No, 72% of the senators in America are bought by this particular lobby. Don't worry, when you tally up all the lobbies, it comes out to about 90 to 95 out of the 100 senators that are bought bitches of the donor class, despise the American voters, and betray them at every turn to serve their donors instead. So we just give you pharmaceutical companies as an example, but good news, you don't have to rely on me. There's a Republican House member, ex-House member, Mo Brooks, very conservative. He gave one of the speeches on January 6th. And he was running for Senate in Alabama. And Lauren Windsor of Undercurrent happened to be there, got him on tape saying this. He said it publicly. Okay, now it reported by no one in mainstream media. I had Lauren on the show. They buried this news because not only do they lie actively to help the powerful, but mainstream media, if you find a news story that is really impactful, they'll work overtime to bury it and make sure that no one ever sees it. Now, Cenk, that's coming. It's got to be hyperbole. I mean, this congressman isn't going to openly, publicly talk about how they're getting bribed by the industries they're supposed to regulate, is he? Let's find out.
Special interest groups run Washington. And I don't mean that metaphorically, I mean literally. Now, here is how it happens. In the House of Representatives, I'll use that as an example because that's where I work. If you want to be chairman of a major committee, you have to purchase it. And the purchase price for a major committee, say like Ways and Means, minimum bid is $1 million. You have to get it from the special interest groups. And with the special interest groups, there is a quid pro quo. If you don't do what they tell you to do, they won't give you the money that finances your chairmanship.
Period. If you want to be a leader in Congress, you must give $1 million in bribes to your fellow Republican or fellow Democrat. And where are you going to get that money? The only place you can get it is from the industry you're pretending to be a watchdog of. But in reality, you have to let them rob all of your voters in return for the bribe you're getting so you could be the leader of that committee. You just heard it from the horse's mouth. And he said, where are we going to get it from? The average Jane or Joe, they don't have that kind of money. So we got to go to the industry and we have to take their bribes in order to advance our careers. New York Times never covered it. CNN never covered it. MSNBC. He's a Republican running for Senate in Alabama. MSNBC's like, shh. Wait, I thought you hated Republicans. That's a perfect opportunity to attack him. He's admitting it publicly, right? Shh. Never talk about the donors. You remember that scathing segment Rachel Maddow did about the donor class? Oh, right, neither do I. Remember the one Sean Hannity did? Oh, right. Neither do I. Now, from time to time, they'll pick one guy from the others. And so Sean Hannity will be like, you will never see Sean Hannity taking on a corporate donor. Never. He works for corporations. Okay, he's part of corporate media. But he'll be like, oh, George Soros. He's the one donor in the country. George Soros. Everybody hate the Jew. I mean Soros. Oh, wait. I thought you guys were the ones handing out all the anti-Semitic trope cards when we talk about AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. but you kiss their ass. But when you find a Jewish donor, George Soros, who's actually friendly to Palestinians, all of a sudden, Soros, he's the only one. Soros is the only problem. Why? Because Soros is actually against the other donors. But you don't have to like Soros. I don't want Soros's money in politics. I don't want it. I don't want any money in politics. And then the MSNBC crowd will be like the Koch brothers. Now they're right about the Koch brothers, and Soros does give a lot of money. But that's the only donor you could find? Where's your scathing editorials on MSNBC or New York Times about the defense contractor that has robbed us blind year after year? The Pentagon can't ever pass an audit. They've literally never passed an audit. They say they can't find $400 billion. And so where's the attack dogs at MSNBC and CNN? Nowhere to be found. When it comes to the donor class, all of a sudden, every single person on cable news agrees. Shh, don't let the voters know. Don't let the voters know. We all work for the powerful. We all work for corporate rule. That's the reality. Okay, now, why are the politicians so obsessed with the money? Well, first of all, they're the worst of us. They're not the best of us. The mainstream media gets you to believe, or at least they did for the boomers for a long, long time. Not all of them, but some of them. Get you to believe that, oh, these are the best of us. Oh, Senator, oh, here comes the honorable gentleman from Connecticut. No, they're dirtbags. They're the worst of us. If you had honest news media, they would tell you, we found the 520, so I'll give 15 a pass, okay? Some on the right, some mostly on the left, but that's my opinion. But okay, but Massey now, Marjorie Taylor Greene's being honest now. Okay, I could disagree with them, but they're being honest. So they're exempt. But about 95% of Congress, 500 some odd folks, are the very worst people we could find in the country. The ones that raise their hands, say, oh, I'll work. Oh, would you like me to finance a genocide? I'm in. I'd love to finance. Oh, we're murdering children. Love it. Give me money. Give me a bribe, and I'll help you do that. Oh, you're destroying the planet. And for your own pocketbook. Oh, and you want me to give you money on top. I mean, you want me to steal from the American taxpayers and give it to you. Oh, yeah, me, I'll do it, I'll do it. Those are the worst people on earth. And they're 95% of Congress. Wait, nope, let me be clear. 93.65, why do I say that? What percentage of House races does the candidate with more money win? In the year 2022, that number was 93.65%. They're obsessed with the money is because it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, doesn't matter if you're conservative or liberal. The only thing that matters is whether you have more money or not. And by the way, did you hear that on mainstream media? Remember when they were like, oh my God, it turns out 94% of the time, whoever was more corrupt and collected more bribes was the one who won the election. Oh my God, we should be really worried about these scumbag politicians. It seems like they're all taking money and working for those guys, and then the guys who take the most bribes win 94% of the time. 0 times said on national television in America, 0. Isn't that amazing that not a single reporter on television noticed collectively trillions of dollars in lobbying, in PAC money, in dark money, etc., at least billions, leading to trillions in subsidies for those same exact companies. The rules being rigged for those same exact companies, but not a single reporter followed the money. They couldn't figure it out. They're still like penciling it out. Right now, they're like in a Washington Post conference room. They're like, what do you think it is? You think the American voters never get what they want because the best people on earth are trying so hard they just can't do it? A filibuster, good answer. Good parliamentarian, great answer. That's probably why. Oh, how about the Republicans? They say that they're a populist, average guy, but they just passed giant corporate tax cuts, giant tax cuts for the rich, giant corporate subsidies, giant extra pork barrel for the Defense Department, etc. How about them? Oh, they meant well. They just coincidentally, they ran out of time before they can get to the average guy, let alone the poor's. They just happen to give all of the money to the richest and most powerful people who happen to bribe them. Whoa, golly gee, another coincidence. What a coinky-dink. Is that the moronic conversation going on in the newsroom of the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN and MSNBC? And we know Fox News is lying, we know that. But the other 4 are also lying. They're just better at it. They're more sophisticated. Oh, Joe Manchin is a moderate. He's against paid family leave. That polls at 84%. He's with the 16% radicals who think that moms should not get any time off after they have a baby. They should go right back to the assembly line, right back into the coal mines. That is a radical. Joe Manchin is one of the biggest radicals in this country, but he's a radical corporatist. So shh. Instead, CNN and New York Times will label him a moderate. What kind of a moderate agrees with 16% of the country and disagrees with 84% of the country? Please tell me why you're all liars at the New York Times, why you're all liars at CNN. Please tell me why. No, but I found an excuse. Joe Manchin is from a red state, but he's a Democrat. That gives me the excuse to call him a moderate. Show me one policy position that he was a moderate on. Don't tell me gun control. That's the easiest one, and he gets paid and bribed to do that too. And even if he doesn't get bribed, yeah, I get it. It's culturally different in West Virginia. Outside of that one fig leaf that you have, go ahead. Subsidies to oil companies. Him and his daughter drove out jobs from West Virginia to serve a pharmaceutical donor as someone who was literally paying off his daughter. And on top of that, Joe Manchin owns a coal company. How many times did CNN or New York Times tell you, hey, this son of a bitch owns a coal company? So as he's passing bills that get subsidies to coal companies, he's literally paying himself. That's how corrupt he is. That's why he lives on a yacht. None, zero. The liars in mainstream media, their job is to protect the corruption. They're the getaway driver in this corrupt system. I loathe the politicians, I loathe the mainstream media figures who are pretending to be journalists, but are actually propagandists for foreign governments, for current American corporations, multinational corporations. They're just marketing executives. So, all right, look, today I got worked up on this. Let me give you guys a couple of things and then we got to do an interview. So we're still asking, some of you have participated in this and I love it. Israel has a 16-year-old American kid that they basically kidnapped. They said he looked at someone else throwing a stone, and he's now in captivity. He's got sick. He's lost 30% of his body weight. The sick so-called American officials aren't even asking for him back. They're like, no, just keep him in an Israeli dungeon for as long as you like. Where's the check? Where's the check? Marco Rubio, I know you already got it. You got $5 million from Larry Ellison just in one email we saw in 2016. You got $1 million from AIPAC, et cetera. Okay, that's just the ones we know. God knows how much money, how many bribes, legal bribes they funneled to you. Can you just free one American child? Can you just be the American Secretary of State once? Do your job once for Americans instead of foreign countries? Hashtag free our child. That's what we're asking. By the way, what I love about this revolution is it doesn't give a goddamn about parties. It doesn't care. I don't care if you're on the right, the left. That's an American child. Hashtag free our child. That's Marco Rubio's handles on X and Facebook and wherever else you can get him. Hey, represent us for once. Can you please release that child from the dungeons that Israel has him in? He can't even talk to his family. He can't talk to anyone. He's so dangerous. American child from Florida, who should be working at Dairy Queen right now, is so dangerous because he saw someone else throwing a stone, according to the giant liars that is the IDF. They've never told the truth in the last 2 years. I don't know if they've ever told the truth in their whole lives, but Marco Rubio is busy bowing down to them, groveling and licking their boots for money. Hashtag free our child. I know, he's not an Israeli, so his life is like barely worth anything. All right, other people wrote in with great ideas. I'm barely gonna have time for them. So let's see here. First, I'll get in what I can. I'm gonna go to Covfefe Graphic 12. I registered and own pardonmycorruption.com, gladly donated to TYT. They wanna build it out, play on all the pardons and everything else. So, hey, listen, brother, I love that, thank you. Can we build another website about all the crooked pardons from the Democrats and the Republicans? Maybe, but one thing at a time, so I love it. Keep that in your back pocket. We'll let you know if we need it. But the collaborative way that we're doing this, guys, I can't get enough of it. We can't do it by ourselves. We need all of you guys. Speaking of which, let me go to Arpan, because he built this unbelievable website. We asked you guys, you named it corruptionwatch.us. And so let me give you some quotes from Arpan. He said, I feel like this will, graphic 6, I feel like this will eventually come up, so I thought I would go ahead and say it now. I do not want to monetize this app or get any money from it. I did this for the people. As a teacher, I live humbly but comfortably. I do not need any more money. I would like the app to always be free for people. However, I know TYT needs funding because you're a large organization. If ads need to be on the app to help TYT generate revenue, I understand. Okay, I'll answer that in a second, but let me finish Arpan's comment. Also, I'd like to request that a shout out be given to Corey, Project for Progress, specifically because he provided the original vision for the idea. Without his vision, the website would have never come into existence. I would also like to thank members of the Discord Project Paper Trail channel to be given a shout out because they provided me with some input as well. So first of all, Project Paper Trail on Discord, great job. Thank you, brothers and sisters. We appreciate you. Corey, I know it was your idea originally. I love it. I love that it was your idea. I love that it comes from you guys. Arpan, way to build the site. We showed it on Thursday's episode. I don't know how he did it. He just magically built this giant website overnight. And he's added a lot more to it since then. You could, I don't think it's live yet. Wait, is it live, Cara? You're gonna tell me. Corruptionwatch.us. I think it might be live. Sorry that I got confused about that in a second, but we'll get the answer to that. But what I wanted to say to Arpan is, listen, brother, I love that you do this out of goodness of your heart. I heard that you spent 13 hours on it recently. You're amazing. You're an American hero for doing that. I love that you're a teacher and you say you don't need the money. That's great. Right now, we're not raising any money, okay? And so if there is a specific need, hey guys, we need to hire this person to do X, Y, and Z, then I'll come to you guys. But right now, we don't have that need. So you don't need to give any money, etc. This is the American people working together, blood, sweat, and tears to try to get our government back. And okay, so this site's not up yet. I just couldn't remember, not live yet, but it will be soon. We showed it to you what it looks like on Thursday. We'll show it to you again as we build upon it, etc. But for the folks, by the way, that have joined because you like this idea, well, we love you for it. And there is no Young Turks without you guys. So last thing I'll do is shout outs for those folks. Tim Haskins and Fedor Kanaya, thank you for joining through the join button on YouTube. Fat Satter, Box, and Lady AF all gifted 5 memberships on YouTube. Thank you for having open minds, open hearts, for trying to work together. Look, some people, they don't want to work with the right wing. So some folks have left and said, I don't want it. I only want the left wing and I want to hate the other guys and I don't care that you're right that it's Trump and the Republican politicians and Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney, all those guys. I don't care. I want to hate the voters. Okay, then this is not the place for you. Okay, and there's certainly people on the right who say, oh, I hate the left and they do this, and this, and I never want to work with the left. Then this is not the place for you, okay? But if you guys want to work together, and that's the only way we're ever going to win. The establishment is way too strong, way too powerful, too much money, too many politicians in their back pocket, the entire mainstream media in their back pocket. If we don't work together, we got no chance. But if you want to work together, and you want to create amazing things like Arpan did and Corey with his idea, so many others that I've given credit to, and we're going to keep on giving credit to, then you come here. We're now calling this show the Revolution. We'll get into that later. I'll explain it. Basically, the revolution, okay? And it's a peaceful one, it's a nonviolent one, it's a democratic one. I don't mean democratic as in the party, I mean as in democracy, as in the people ruling. That's what Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, that's what they all talked about. This is a beautiful, unique place at the time where the people rule and not the powerful. That's what we want to go back to. We want to bring this back to the heart of what this country was supposed to do and have it be America again. All right, guys, I love you. We're gonna see you next time. Everybody stick around for a great interview we got coming up next. All right, back on the Young Turks. We've got a great interview for you guys. And Cobi's in the house. Cobi Blumenfeld-Gantz, he's the CEO and founder of Chapter. Now, Chapter is one of our sponsors, so I'm going to tell you that up front. But what I want to talk to you about is Medicare, because there's a lot more I want to learn about Medicare, and you're an expert. So, all right, first of all, your industry, keeping it real, and you guys are about to see how real we're keeping it in a second. Your industry's got a lot of issues, right?
Just a few.
Yeah. So first of all, what does it mean to even be on a Medicare plan? I thought we all got Medicare. So what's the plan?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. No.
Every American, when they are turning 65 or about to retire, needs to deal with Medicare in some way. There are multiple types of Medicare, but broadly, people have two paths. One is they can just go on original Medicare, which covers up to 80% of sort of healthcare costs. But because it only covers up to that 80%, most people choose to buy some kind of supplemental coverage. And you hear a lot of ads for Medicare Advantage, which is one option, or Medicare Supplement, which is another. But most people choose to fill that gap, that 20% gap, because if you go to the doctor, or you unfortunately, God forbid, have to go into the hospital, you could have a bill that's for tens of thousands of dollars. And 20% of tens of thousands of dollars is still a massive bill that most people don't want or can't pay.
Yeah, so I got to learn more because we're doing this thing with you guys, but there's still so much more. When they first started this, was there just one plan? And then when did like 1 million plans come out?
Yeah, so original Medicare, which was started by LBJ back in the day, was sort of a government-run single-payer program. Medicare Advantage is the privatization of the supplemental coverage options, which started, I believe, under the first Clinton administration. I'm pretty sure that's when Medicare Advantage plans at least became very popular, and so that's really when things started to.
So at that point, a whole bunch of competition pops up, and people are like, "Okay, get my plan, and the selling point is, I assume I'm going to deliver the best plan, most comprehensive plan for you at the lowest cost, right?" So do those plans actually do that? In aggregate?
The very satisfying answer is it depends.
Okay, so what does it depend on?
So it really depends on one's personal situations. Broadly, there is a really huge push by a lot of people in the marketplace, by the government, as well as by individual Medicare Advantage plans, United, Aetna, Anthem, whomever, to put people on these privatized Medicare Advantage plans, because there's a belief that these at-risk models or value-based care models keep costs low and deliver better care. That's not, we don't really know if that's correct. There's a lot of competing evidence about whether that's true, and it is an individualized, personalized choice. So we at Chapter actually default in many cases to putting people on original Medicare with a supplement as opposed to Medicare Advantage, because though it is a little bit more expensive in upfront costs and premiums, it has much more robust coverage. You really know what you're getting. Whereas on a Medicare Advantage plan, there's all these holes, there's loopholes, there's a lot of gotchas that insurance carriers use to minimize their costs and keep exposure on the consumer, on the American. So
you do comprehensive plans that's Medicare plus Medicare Advantage in essence.
Yes.
Interesting.
We look at every type
but
of
we still get the money from Medicare for that though.
The flow of funds is the government to a private Medicare Advantage plan or Medicare Supplement plan. That's right. So the government is ultimately subsidizing it and then putting it on the private insurance carrier to operate that plan.
Right, and when we say subsidizing, most of the money, not necessarily all the money, is originally ours that we paid into Medicare.
Of course, it's taxes.
Right.
Oh, it's taxes and yeah, it's paid in. We are all paying Medicare payroll taxes throughout our careers.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay, so then how do you know which one is the best plan? Because there's probably 1 million out there.
Yeah, there's about 25,000 Medicare options in the country, so it's a lot.
Jesus, 25,000. Yeah. I didn't know that. Okay.
So it's funny when you choose a health insurance plan through your employer, maybe TYT offers health insurance plans to its employees. We at Chapter obviously offer health insurance plans to our employees. Most Americans are covered through an employer plan. You probably have 2 to 3 options, and they're probably all from the same insurance carrier, because your employer or your HR team does the work of selecting the plan predominantly, and then you have 1 to 3 to choose from. In Medicare, there's no HR team, and an individual person has anywhere from 75 to 150 options to choose from that are available in a given area. So I heard a podcast a couple of years ago of a Stanford health economist, a PhD professor at Stanford University, who's a health economist, saying that he can't figure out how to sign up for Medicare. So if someone who is probably one of the smartest people in the country on our health system can't figure it out, how can any of us?
Yeah, so are you guys brokers, basically?
We monetize as a brokerage, but importantly, we operate more like a consumer advocacy group. So what we do is we look at every single Medicare option. We have a recommendation engine, a lot of technology that makes sure we put people on, or we recommend the plan that's right for each person. And then we as a company earn commissions from the insurance carrier. But our Medicare advisors have no idea what specific insurance carriers pay chapter, because not all do, at what amount they pay chapter. And our Medicare advisors' compensation does not change based on whether they enroll someone in a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare Supplement plan, or whether it's a plan that chapter even earns money on. So we enroll people in plans every day on which chapter earns no revenue because it's the right thing to do.
Okay, so that's interesting and I think probably critical, but first, back up. So, okay, I get into Medicare. At that point, I could just, like, does the government give me these 75 options, or do I have to Google it? Like, and then does everybody use a broker, or do people just like kind of pick on their own, generally speaking?
I wish the government had, in the same way that we all wished that taxes were just kind of automated and correct and we didn't have to do all this work to file taxes because it should just be simple. It's not, it's kind of like that in Medicare, where you would think that the government just signs you up for the right plan, or at least for original Medicare. It doesn't, that's not how it works. You as an individual have to take action at the right time. In fact, if you delay or defer enrolling in a Medicare plan and you miss your enrollment window, the government will then impose lifetime penalties on you, which comes in the form of increased premiums over time. So my mom now has to pay lifetime penalties because the brokerage that she used when she was initially signing up, this is before Chapter existed, why I started Chapters, because I saw my parents struggling with it. But she now has lifetime penalties, which is really a shame because it's just an administrative boondoggle, really.
I was gonna say, if your mom is on Chapter and she has lifetime penalties, I wouldn't say that out loud.
Well, that was before Chapter existed.
I'm kidding. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna come back to the brokers because it's super important. I don't want people getting ripped off, right? But tell me a little bit about the origin story. So what happened with your mom?
Yeah, so it goes back even before that. I was really fortunate to grow up with my grandfather living with my parents and me when I was in high school. He was just not as independent as he was before that. And he had to go through the Medicare sign-up process, and my mom was dealing with that for him.
Okay, hold up, where'd you grow up?
In Westchester, New York. Just outside New York City.
Yeah, all right. I grew up in New Jersey. So
nice. What part?
East Brunswick.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Central Jersey. So culture is enormously similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my grandfather was certainly very smart, very mentally sharp, physically capable, could move around, but was so isolated in our house. He didn't have a strong social community. He didn't have a strong network. Not because he was a Luddite. He was very smart. He took radios apart and put them back together. Just a very different technology set of his day relative to.
I got a nephew who takes radios apart, doesn't put them back together, but he's great at taking them apart. But okay.
And so I saw my grandfather dealing with it, my mom dealing with it for him. I didn't do anything with it at the time. I went to college, I went to grad school, I worked at a big software company for a long time, helping the government deal with data and deal with complex data systems. And then I saw my parents going through it again when they were retiring. They ended up working with a local broker who didn't really have the data or the tools to be effective, and they got ripped off, as I mentioned. Not necessarily deliberately. I don't mean to say that this broker was malicious. I have no idea if he was, but he certainly didn't have the data or the tools to be effective. And I was just really appalled at how complicated this system was for people who have been paying in to the system their entire careers and who deserve and rely on a health insurance ecosystem that is really failing them.
So how did you, okay, so I get the first part, which is people are kind of in the wilderness.
Yep.
Like, good luck to you, figure it out. If you don't, there'll be lifetime penalties. And if you get the wrong broker, you might pay a lot more than you need to. Good luck, right? Okay, thanks, government, appreciate it. But to be fair to the government, they set up Medicare in the first place. Okay,
yep.
So back when government used to function. So all right, so they're in the wilderness. They can pick blindly, which I assume a lot of people do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, or they could use a broker. Then I do the research when we're thinking of working with you guys. Oh my God, this industry is a little bit of a nest of vipers.
Yeah.
So like, how did the bad guys who've been caught How do they get paid, and why is that a perverse financial incentive?
Yeah, so the predominant way that the Medicare brokerage industry works, and why I want to start the company as the antidote to this, is Medicare brokers get paid by a subset of insurance carriers to push plans that pay them more. So if I'm a local Medicare broker, I might work with 2 or 3 of the big insurance carriers, and I might only know about those 2 to 3 insurance carriers, even though there are 25 others that exist. And I'm just going to recommend the plans from those 2 or 3 to my people that I'm talking to. And worse than that, I might get paid 2 or 3x by a Medicare Advantage plan relative to a Medicare supplement plan. And so I'm going to try to get as many people as I can onto a Medicare Advantage plan, whether that's right for them or not.
So this is like, you go to a hotel in a town you're not familiar with, and you go ask the valet or whoever, hey brother, where should I go to a restaurant or a play? And you don't know that Tony came and talked to him earlier.
Yeah, he's getting a kickback.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's, oh brother, your brother, they bring him down to the Parmesan place.
Exactly.
Right, and so
same
thing.
Same thing, except it's your healthcare.
So because not only could you be getting ripped off, but you might also not get the coverage that you need, in which you're massively screwed.
Yeah, if your doctors are out of network or your prescriptions aren't covered in a way that allow you to pay for them, that has serious consequences.
Okay, so you see your mom go through it, you realize, okay, this industry's got issues. Oh, I got an idea, why don't we do an honest company within the industry? Okay, but why do you think that would work? Like, what's your pitch to investors for why honesty might work?
Well, most people thought I was crazy. Most people told me it wouldn't work, to be clear. I think it's that whenever you're challenging status quo, people are confused or scared or just don't really know what to make of it. In fact, I'm now persona non grata in the Medicare industry.
Good for you.
The legacy Medicare brokerage industry is putting up videos about how evil I and Chapter are because we are shedding light on the evils of the industry. It's
no, listen, brother. Now you're talking my language. Okay, I'm shunned in Washington for the same reasons, right? So okay, that's actually
I never thought
that's the best ad you could have is the rest of the industry attacking you. But yeah,
I never thought I'd have the industry issuing takedown ads of me, which I actually think is good because it means they're threatened by us in a good way. Because we are starting to grow, and if we're known for anything, it's for being the fastest growing and most honest, only honest really, Medicare navigation platform in the country. But when I think about sort of where we're going and really the broad vision of the company, even from inception, Medicare was always a big part of it, but it was never the only part of it. What we really want to do is build the trust layer between America's seniors and American technology in this age of AI, because there's so much opportunity for seniors to get the best value out of all these new technologies, but equal opportunity for them to get scammed and screwed by those same technologies.
Okay, so the very core of the issue is, why can people trust you? Because like I'm sure the other guy's gonna say the same thing,
and
right?
They do say the same thing.
You're right. So how do we know you're not like them and you're the right guy?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say taste the soup, try it, and people can kind of see when they use it. But I mean, we commit contractually. I've testified at the Senate, at the US Senate on this. I've been very public about our stances on what we will do and won't do. And we are the only Medicare company in the country that will say, we pay our Medicare advisors even when Chapter earns nothing. As an example, that simple statement, there's not a single other Medicare organization in the country that does that or that can say that. Just as one example.
So, okay, you mentioned that there's kind of a wall inside your company. So how, tell me more about that wall. What's the purpose of the wall, first of all?
Yeah, purpose is to make sure we remain unbiased. Because if we don't have that unbiased or neutral nature, then we're just like everyone else. And I would rather shut the company down than.
So you're saying that people who recommend the plan don't know who you guys are getting the commission from on the other side of the wall.
Or how much that commission is, correct.
Or how much that commission is.
And then on top of that, we still.
I see, because so if you have plan A, that's gonna give you 3x commission to Chapter. Plan B gives you 2x, plan C only gives you 1x. If this guy on the other side of the wall knows it, he's gonna lean towards 3x because his commission, his
or if his
bonus.
compensation or bonus or performance, right, changes. And we don't do commission-based pay, to be clear, for our team, but most companies do. Yeah,
I see.
Exactly.
So if you're doing commission-based pay and you know that company's going to pay your company 3x and hence you 3x,
yeah,
you're going to pick that company whether they're the right plan or not the right plan.
Even if it's subconscious or like, okay, these two plans, like it might be a little bit worse, but it's okay. It just creeps in a way that's really unacceptable.
So how do we know there's not because it's not like this doesn't happen on Wall Street, where they pretend to have walls and then one guy comes around the wall and goes, psst, psst. How do we know that's not happening?
I mean, we're a very small company. It just doesn't happen. It's a technology barrier, to be clear. So they're in two totally different systems that don't talk to each other. We have our internal platform that our Medicare advisors use that has every single Medicare option, a recommendation engine, and just allows the Medicare advisor to help the consumer directly. Totally separately, we have a finance system that looks at our revenue and our costs and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's two totally different systems, so it wouldn't even be possible.
Yeah. So I don't know if in the context of this interview I should say 707 TYT help, but you kind of convinced me. You convinced me before, otherwise you wouldn't be a sponsor, right? But guys, I want to ask you something about politics in a second, having nothing to do with this. But just so you know, we did our research and we saw a whole bunch of companies doing exactly what Cobi's describing here, right? Cheesy stuff, working on commission, selling people out. We saw you weren't do that. We saw the industries attacking you. So that was some good.
And the DOJ stuff now.
Yeah. So tell folks about the DOJ stuff.
So the DOJ unveiled an investigation into the 3 largest Medicare brokerages earlier this year, basically accusing them of exactly what I've been saying for 5 years. And when I started Chapter, everyone said I was crazy. Everyone said, oh, these companies aren't that bad. They're not doing what you're saying they're doing. And now the DOJ sort of, at least, they haven't been convicted yet, but the DOJ at least is shedding a lot of evidence and a lot of light on these bad practices. So now the public is starting to become aware of what's going on, which I think is very healthy, actually.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love light's always a good disinfectant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So okay, it's politics. So Medicare, every once in a while people scream, oh, it's gonna run out of money, we're all screwed. So, but to be fair, we do have an aging population and that is a problem. So what's the current state of Medicare in your opinion?
We have about between 65 and 70 million Americans on Medicare today. That will grow to 80 to 90 million over the next decade. It's growing very quickly just because of the demographic shifts. We do have a Medicare trust fund that is not sustainable, along with our Social Security infrastructure, our Social Security trust fund, and they're pretty interlinked because of age and demographics. So yeah, I think we have been able to bail ourselves out, so to speak, by taking on more debt, by continuously funding the Medicare program. But at some point, it will topple over if we do nothing. That's absolutely true.
Okay, so Social Security is a relatively easy fix because if you just lift the cap, right? Say it's blocked around 170,000 at this point, and I get the logic of it. Hey, if you're paying up to 170,000, you're going to get back commensurate, income from Social Security when you retire, right? You're all paying in, you're all getting back, but. And so lifting the cap is almost cheating a little bit because it's asking wealthy folks to pay more in than they're going to get back, whereas everybody else is kind of paying in what they're going to get back, right? But if you do that, it solves the problem for Social Security. It's solvent for eternity, roughly, right? You never know what's going to happen, but we're good for a long, long time. How much, if at all, does that help Medicare?
Not much, unfortunately. So it turns out that. When you have an aging population and people are paying in payroll taxes from before, similar to Social Security, you could increase taxes. And in some cases we do. We have what's called an income-related monthly adjustment amount, an IRMA, if people have heard of that, which is a progressive tax in that wealthier individuals pay more for Medicare Part B. So that already exists, but it doesn't cover the disparity. There are so many inefficiencies in the healthcare ecosystem and in the Medicare ecosystem that are really unrelated to care, that are just bloat administrative fees, part of which Chapter is trying to solve by having a more efficient plan to person match. The inefficiencies of that are dramatic in terms of mortality rates, in terms of excess cost to the system. But if we can reduce a lot of those administrative burdens, we can save 10, 15, even 20% potentially of our Medicare expenses, which is insane. It's a huge amount.
How would we do that?
There's a lot the government has to do. There are limits to what individuals or what the private market can do. Some of it is the government. I also think a lot of it is just broadly, how do we make our country healthier? Because ultimately, this is a question of how do we do more preventative care? I think one of the biggest challenges in the American healthcare ecosystem, not even specific to Medicare, just all of our health insurance, the way it works is we don't have a great longitudinal incentive for insurance carriers to keep people healthy proactively, right? If I'm a 60-year-old on a United Health Insurance plan through my employer, I might be on a Cigna plan when I'm 61. So why should United invest a ton of money in me to keep me healthy? And then when I'm 65 and go on Medicare, I might go on to an Aetna plan.
Okay, so you're now kind of making the argument, at least this is what I'm choosing to hear, for Medicare for all. Because if you had Medicare for all, then you wouldn't have that misaligned incentives. Hey, I'm gonna just dump them on Medicare anyway, I don't wanna do preventative. But if you do Medicare for all, there is no dumping. It's the same people, same customers, et cetera. So what's your thoughts on that?
I don't have a silver bullet. Obviously the devil's in the details. I think Medicare for all, in all likelihood, would be implemented as Medicare Advantage for all. It would be largely privatized and government funded, just the reality of how it would be done, which isn't necessarily the worst thing, it's just how it would be done. There are some proposals that have been voiced over the past 5 years that are pretty interesting, not Medicare for all, but move the Medicare age down from 65 to 50 or 55. And the way that would work is you have employers would be saving a lot of money because they wouldn't be covering people who are on the older side of their population, their risk pool. You have them pay
That makes it more practical because then they would allow politicians to do it.
Exactly, and then you have the employers. Employers can't save 100% of those costs, but employers can save 50% of those costs and then subsidize the other 50%. So it reduces employers' risk share by about half of that age, subsidizes the other half to Medicare. And that, there are different studies, again, showing different data here, but a lot of studies are showing that would decrease overall costs because it basically makes the employer risk pool healthier because it decreases it gets the 50 and 55-year-olds out who are the older ones of the employer pool, and it makes the Medicare risk pool better too because it's the younger crowd of the Medicare age. So that doesn't solve it forever, but it probably does solve it for a good 10 or 15 years.
So Medicare for some.
Medicare for more.
Medicare for more, okay. By the way, look, now talk about bias. That would be great for your company, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah, because then you'd have a lot more people who could sign up, right? Okay, good. We got one company on the side of Medicare for more.
Yeah.
Okay, because at least you're incentivizing that. And that one, you don't need a wall on that one.
No, and again, if there's data showing that we should actually increase the Medicare age to 70, I genuinely, I've said this many times, I would much rather, there are a lot of problems in the world I can solve and our company can solve. Unfortunately, there's no dearth of challenges seniors face. We choose Medicare today because it's such a huge challenge. But if Medicare were solved in some way by the government or by someone else, it'd be great. We'll go work on something else. A lot of ways to create value in this country.
Yeah, but believe me, there's a lot of industries that need more honesty. Yeah. Okay, we got media covered. You guys now have this Medicare brokerage business covered. A lot more to get to. Okay. Absolutely. All right, Cobi Blumenfeld-Gantz, CEO and founder of Chapter. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, absolutely. All right, guys. So no bonus episode today. I'll double up tomorrow after Operation Joy when Anna's back. But everybody check out Anna on CNN tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern, and we'll see you tomorrow.